slate was wiped clean, what would you draw on the canvas of your being? Life is a dream, but the problem is control. How you make a living when somebody wants your soul? It's like the whole system is a form of slavery. From the air that we breathe and the life we do not see, all the places that we ain't allowed to go if we don't sow the seed. How will the garden grow? Every time we start figuring it out, the system resets, cut off at the sprout. What if I told you high wizards making moves in the temple of the elite, so we will always lose? But we can choose to turn it all around, tune in the soul, back in God's sound. Rhythm of the ancestor, music is our heart. Last of the human skills, hip-hop is our art. We must awaken to the living prophecy, the living dream of Martin Luther King, the promised land from the fifth dimension. We are the children of Martin Luther's vision. It's our position, make the earth a better place for the future of us all, the entire human race. The air, the fire, the breath of sacred water. We are the caretakers, every hip-hopper. You ain't used to innovation like this. Trained in the temple under blast master Christ. Call him the teacher, the solid foundation. We remain unfazed by all the petty hating. We rose above the stones thrown at the temple. They worked against us, stayed focused on our mental. It's really simple when you master the technique. Lyrical graffiti from every word you speak. We will outlast all our adversaries who plot our downfall. We have our victory over the streets and over 5G, over all of the plans of Illuminati. New world order, your birthright is to fail. True world order, our birthright is the ground. The living Christ, hip-hop is in our blood. Our culture's born of peace, our God is made of love.
Those that have gospels of hip-hop in their possession, you can open your gospel to the first overstanding entitled Real Hip-Hop. Turn to page 80. In between paragraphs 103 and 104, you will see the three natures of hip-hop. Hip-hop exists as three distinct natures. These natures come together to create the total hip-hop experience. The first nature of hip-hop is hip-hop, spelled capital H, lowercase I, lowercase p, lowercase h, lowercase o, lowercase p. One word, hip-hop. It looks like hi-fop. But this hip-hop nature is our unique spirit, our unique collective consciousness, the creative force behind hip-hop's elements. Hip-hop is the name of our lifestyle and collective consciousness. The second nature of hip-hop is spelled capital H, lowercase I, lowercase p, space, capital H, lowercase o, lowercase p. This hip-hop is the creation and development of breaking, MCing, graffiti art, DJing, beatboxing, street fashion, street language, street knowledge, and street entrepreneurialism. It is what we call ourselves and our activity in the world. This hip-hop is the name of our culture. Finally, the third nature of hip-hop is lowercase h, lowercase I, lowercase p, dash, lowercase h, lowercase o, and lowercase p. This hip-hop represents rap music product and those things and events associated with rap music entertainment. This hip-hop is a music genre. Now look at this. You have hip-hop 1, hip-hop 2, hip-hop 3, the three natures of hip-hop. Hip-hop 1 is consciousness. Hip-hop 2 is culture. Hip-hop 3 is product. Hip-hop culture is the name of our unique community of consciousness. Hip-hop 1 is the spirit, which creates the hip-hopper mind, which creates hip-hop, the culture, the body, which then creates hip-hop, the product, the expression. Hip-hop 1, the spirit, is born of God, the great spirit, the great event. It is the light of our world. Hip-hop 2, hip-hop, is born of cultural syncretism, meaning the blending of different cultures to create a new culture. It is the combination and unity of several independent cultures creating a new heterogeneous culture. And finally, hip-hop 3, rap music product, is born of corporate business interests. It exists when the effects of conscious hip-hop and cultural hip-hop become tradable material products. We've already learned now that hip-hop is not an object, that it is a subject, and that as a subject, it never really enters the physical world. Hip-hop is an idea that you become in order to express its elements. So right at the beginning, we could see that hip-hop really exists in the realm of ideas, thoughts, vibrations, influences, etc. And to handle real hip-hop, such handling must be done mentally. Real hip-hop is a mental activity. You don't really handle hip-hop with your hands. You handle hip-hop with your mind. Yes, indeed, son one. Wait. Actually, you know what? Let me get myself together. Simone, I don't hear him.
Okay.
Let me just. I gotta unplug. I can't reach it actually. Okay. Let me get my hat together here. Well, actually, is it something on his end or on your end? Oh, he said yes. It's something on his end. Okay, so hold on. He's getting it together on his end. We're gonna start this off.
Peace. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I could hear you loud and clear.
Word. You couldn't hear that music I was just playing.
Yes, no, well, not music. I was checking out the hip hop and hip hop.
Okay, no, because I was trying something with the technology where it said I could hook up it gave me the option of the MPC audio. So I was trying to get busy on them real quick, but apparently it doesn't work like that. Can you hear
yes,
that?
It does.
Oh,
I can hear that.
Okay. No doubt. Okay.
Oh, no doubt.
All right.
Wait a minute. Let that rock. You can't just see it.
Hold on.
Let that rock. Should come out to this. This is the theme music.
Oh yeah. No, we gonna get busy. I didn't think it was gonna work.
You know what? Actually, what's interesting is actually, you know what? Let me turn my light on as well. Let me just get that going. Yeah, let me brighten up a little bit. Mm-hmm. Okay. No. What's interesting is that from last week, you know, we were from last week. I had mentioned that I was in the studio as I am. I'm actually working on a new project right now. Hopefully, we can release it in the same solstice, the winter solstice, like we did last year. So I'm working on it right now. You know this as well, but I mentioned it last week on the call, and some beats came through. Dude stepped up. People out there listening, that was pretty impressive. Matter of fact, you know what? Let me say something real quick. Maybe I can. I got a little. Let me shout my dog out there, Kunta. Let me shout you, Kunta. I got the beats. It was hot. Kunta from Kenya. Shout out to the whole Africa, of course, you know what it is, but bigger shout out to Kenya in particular, because the boom bap was in effect coming out of Kenya. The only issue, though, is that there were samples on the track. So here we go now. And I really should be giving this kind of a lesson, you know, on another level about the making of an album in that kind of way. Maybe we'll record something and probably try to walk ourselves through that. But sometimes I do work with samples. I work with samples. The way the industry is happening right now, there's a place for sampled music. If you're not going to clear it, if you're going to do that, there's a place, and you all know this, you know, on the internet or other places where you could just put your music out, even sell it. And if you didn't clear samples or samples are pending. But an artist like me, global artist worldwide, I'm burdened with that. I ain't saying that it's no hype. Okay, this is a burden. Because I have the persona that I have, I got to be very careful about the music that I put out in terms of its samples and credits and publishing and all that type of stuff. So although Kunta was dope, one of the producers was Kunta. I'm just emphasizing him because I'm talking to everyone who's sending tracks as well, that the Kunta stuff was dope, but it had samples on it. So Kunta, if you could send me some more tracks, but without the samples, I love the Africanness that you brought to it. You know, I could get real wild on that right there. It was straight up. The woman you had on there speaking about Africa, all of that stuff I'd have to clear. I have to find out who that woman was. I don't know if it was a sample or somebody that you know or someone like that, but we'll get on the phone and make it happen more like that. Those that are sending tracks, try to send me tracks without samples. That's the first level of the production that I'm looking for. We'll get to the tracks that do have, that we are going to clear samples. We're going to use it as promo. We'll get to that. But at the beginning stages of this particular album project, I need music that doesn't have samples in it. I need music that doesn't have samples in it. And we're looking for boom bap, strictly boom bap. That's it, and different variations of it. That's it. So shout out to Kunta. I was very impressed with what she sent me, and it was dope. Of course, let me shout out Ghost Omega. Let me shout you real quick, Ghost Omega. That was dope. You had a sample in one of yours as well, but it was dope musically. You guys are thinking in the right direction. That's my point. You're thinking in the right direction. Other producers include K Prime, obviously, Ben from Boom Bap Studios, DJ Static, as well. Shout out to you, Static. Got your joint, which was crazy. Waylon Jackson also came with something as well. Shout out to Waylon Jackson, came with some boom bap. I'm looking at all of this. And of course, Sun One, you know you always in the building playing beats right now. Matter of fact, do you have another one? Shout out to Jason Zotos as well. Big up to Jason Zotos as well. Shout out. Yeah, that's a nice little pickup.
Yeah, that's all right.
And you know I got these corny computer speakers. I need to hook this up to some boom bap. See, that's nice. Shout out to Lisa and Derek as well. You know what? Let me say that as well. On this is different from the production side. That I also mentioned. We talked about the organization of touring, the hip hop exhibit, how we are going out as a temple of hip hop. And of course, last week I asked for some help, basically. And shout out to Lisa. If you're listening, Lisa, Derek, we did get your email. We are going to respond to you in that way. I wanted to come at you. We're so busy. And that's probably why we need the help in that way. I'm definitely going to respond to you in that. Just wanted to shout you right here as well. Shout you out because you guys did respond. When I put the word out, you did respond. And so I appreciate that. Those that are interested in either volunteering to support the Temple of Hip Hop, if you got ideas that could push the temple forward, as well as those that are sending music, beats, and so on, those that would like to be on the album, there's room for that as well. That's what this temple is all about in that way. It's not so much about trying to get your career started. It's about, do you really have skills or not? Let me hear them beats. Let me hear those rhymes. Let me hear your singing. Let me hear your skills. Because without the skill, nothing that we're teaching here is going to make any sense. You have to do your culture, be your culture, express your culture. And that's what this is all about. That's why we're opening this opportunity up. I'm doing my album. Those that want to get down, come on, let me see what you got. Most dudes don't want to get down now. The intimidation is a little too much, I understand. But you're going to have to overcome that and grab the mic if you're an MC, or grab your beat, your drum machine if you're a producer, or whatever, and take advantage of the opportunity that's before you. You see also where the opportunity is coming to. It's coming to the temple of hip hop. You know, we're not blaring this out all over the internet on Instagram. This is right here for those that are part of this kind of call, those that are part of the building of our community. This is the beginning, or might be the beginning of a great opportunity for you. And I am responding. Like I said, the people I shout, and there's others as well. Please don't feel no way if I didn't shout your name out. But I just wanted to say this to these specific people that I did get an immediate response to, those that are attending the Temple of Hip Hop. So let's.
Right. We have the MCKRS-ONE at Gmail right there on the screen. So.
And thanks for saying that. Right, to send your music, beats, ideas, send it to mckrsone@gmail.com. You see it right there. It's going to stay up for a little while, but I'm also going to flash up real quick. Someone, you're going to flash up real quick the attendance. Let us start real quick with the attendance and how that actually works. Every week, you know, we take attendance because at the end of our full reading of the Gospel of Hip Hop, there will be a test for those that want to become official hip hop cultural specialists. There will be a test at the end. We are highlighting certain parts of the Gospel of Hip Hop as we read it through. So those that are part of that, not only do we have your attendance, send in your attendance, let us know that you were here, but also in the Gospel itself, those that have their Gospel of Hip Hop. In the Gospel of Hip Hop itself, we are marking what we call highlights. And this is what the test will be on. It will be on the highlights that we're going over with explanations of the Gospel of Hip Hop. To be a hip hop cultural specialist, you have to know your culture. You have to know your culture. You have to be able to articulate your culture, not only defend your culture, but you also have to give it off. You have to be able to express it and talk about it in ways that would make other people impressed about your culture and say, man, you know, I need to respect that, you know. But if you coming off like, man, hip hop ain't nothing, ain't about, we just here, yo, then nobody has a reason to respect us or respect you or respect your children. That's what the Temple of Hip Hop is all about. So let me start with this real quick. And you know what, son, actually, do you have any opening remarks to get into before we get right into this lesson?
Well, I will say that the Temple of Hip Hop is a hip hop ministry, archive, school, and society. We believe in preserving hip hop in our unique way, which is preserving the actual hip hop themselves. And there it is. Obviously, everybody subscribe. You should also subscribe to the Temple of Hip Hop on Instagram at Official Temple of Hip Hop. The same on Facebook. And our website is thetempleofhiphop.org. I'll just play it. All right.
No, you're not. That need to sneak in every once in a while. You got to give us something.
No.
That right there, yeah, that's that jump. So look, we got a lot to go over today. And as you can see, I'm standing in front of this thing because we're going to pull a few words up onto the screen. It's July 4th.
Yes.
It's Independence. Oh, you know what? Wow, you know, Simone is here with us as well. Let me shout out G. Simone, who's here. Came up with a phenomenal song the other day called Hallelujah. Woo!
Okay.
Oh, this is a crazy song we just did the other. Shout out to G. Simone on that other level. Let me, before I begin, I was about to say something, and then you made me think about that. Actually, it just left my head because I was actually thinking about your song Hallelujah. And let me say this. It'll come back to me. Let me say this, that last week we stopped at paragraph 47.
Mm-hmm.
And those that have their Gospel of Hip Hop, we're going to continue at paragraph 47. We're going to continue at paragraph 47. It is Independence Day. It is, that's what I was going to say, Simone, the Frederick Douglass piece. I have my papers there, but I didn't bring them. I have the same papers like this, but with my writing on it. Yeah, I bring that up because it's the 4th of July. The 4th of July. The 4th of July. And here we are discussing the independence of the United States of America. And we're dealing with another one of these holidays, these holy days, another one of these holidays that celebrates the degradation, disrespect, theft, robbery, and murder of pretty much everybody else who was here in the United States or here on this landmass. Hold on one second. Let me just, no, but I had, I might have to walk away from you guys for a minute and reach into my bag, which I don't have here with me. Hold on. Yeah, let me go get that real quick. Let me go get that because I want to start off with a scathing review from Frederick Douglass. Frederick Douglass had an amazing critique of the 4th of July. And we're not dissing the 4th of July. But while everybody else is discussing, the independence, and we're going to do the fireworks and all this type of stuff, this is a philosophical setting here. So we're here to learn. We're here to think. We're not here to bust off fireworks and this kind of thing. If you're doing that, that's fine for you in that way. But we're here to learn. And one thing you got to learn is that those fireworks that you might be hearing tonight, or, all the festivities and the galas that's going on, these fireworks represent bombs, bullets, explosions, people's limbs blowing up. The people that are the victims of those explosions are your ancestors. And I don't mean just Black ancestors. Anyone who was not part of the colonial scheme of America was on the receiving end of those bombs and those guns and those attack dogs. So it's one thing to say, yes, 4th of July, yes, we're celebrating the independence of America, or the United States of America, or the colonies in that sense, the independence of this group from Britain, which, by the way, was a betrayal of their loyalty to the crown. Remember, Britain is the one who came here. Well, actually, the Spanish and the French were here also. But in the scheme of the history in which we're dealing with, England was already here, and that's where the 13 colonies come from. And so the colonies are English people settling along the northeastern coast of this landmass called North America. And so you get them here, and they betray the British. Okay, this group of Englishmen, this group of British people, who were also the dregs of their society. I mean, I don't say this with any down history. 100,000 Irish men, women, and children were called prisoners of war. The English were doing the Irish in, treating them worse than slaves. And then at the end of whoever survived the English terrorism against Ireland, they shipped them people off to America, hoping they would die. 100,000 Irish men, women, and children came to the United States as slaves, not indentured servants. That's a pretty word. Slaves. And so I mention this to give you some context that don't just be the one celebrating going along with mass murder and terrorism. Yes, on a surface level, This is a celebration of independence. You don't have to look at it just from the American point of view, like Thanksgiving. You have to celebrate pilgrims to give thanks for your year. So you Thanksgiving, you give thanks for your year. You give thanks for the things you've received for your year and your family. You ain't trying to cut a turkey because that's what Christopher Columbus and pilgrims and the Puritans saw. That ain't it. I hope that's not where your mind is at. But I know millions of Americans are. So I'm not dissing. But what I'm saying is if you hip hop, if we talking hip hop for real, well, Thanksgiving ain't really where we at as a culture. I'm sorry if I'm offending a few people, but I say that humbly and I say that quietly too. There's no capital letters coming out of my mouth right now. I say that very humbly. We ain't with Thanksgiving or Thanks-taking, whatever you want to call it. We're dressing up with like the devil on Halloween. We are already God. So we just need to walk outside with our costume on. You know, this is the level we're dealing with. Easter is not the resurrection of Jesus, it's the resurrection of the Christ. Big difference. Big difference here. And here we come now to the 4th of July. July. The 4th of July now is America's independence. Sure, okay, we know what that is. I don't mind going to a barbecue right now today, checking out a game or whatever it is. Sure, we're with our family and we're with ourselves. But let's be real about what the holiday means. And wouldn't it be the grace of God that would set us today? Why? We could have had this temple meeting on Monday. We could have did it on Saturday. We could have said every Friday. We could have said no, we said every Sunday. So now the 4th of July comes on a Sunday where we're actually teaching philosophy. Well, we'll take that from the universe, no doubt. So we're going to have to get into it. And what I want to do is, for a moment, let me just run real quick and get my papers, my paperwork, not my papers, give me my paperwork. Go get the paperwork, and I'll be right back in 1 minute. Maybe someone you want to throw that beat on, or even comment on what we're getting ready to comment on. I'll be right back.
No doubt. I'll do both. Yes. What the teacher also referring to, again, it's important for those of the Temple of Hip Hop to actually do independent research. Really, every holiday that is celebrated, you should do some research into to see that which you are participating in. Because again, a lot of things are connected to other things, whether it be astrology, and different happenings with the earth and its weather, and also to not allow your kids to just blindly be led to celebrating certain things that we have no idea about, or Thanksgiving, for instance. If you do the research, you'll find that it has absolutely nothing to do with the Pilgrims and the Native Americans that they found on this land, and that Abraham Lincoln was essentially setting it up as a day of repentance, in a sense, because of all the wars that they had fought and all the people who had died, and the fact that they were still here, because again, they're using God, and they know that God can destroy them at any given moment. So they turned around and said, "No, we're gonna take this day and do this." Now, however, that got switched around, and turned into this whole pilgrim and Indian thing, is we might want to do some research and find out where the switch was for that. But that's indoctrination. And again, the truth of what happened on July 4th as TEACHA has been seen stating several times, if you just look at the song of the Star Spangled Banner and what it's actually mentioning, and the fact that or these guys are turning on their government in order to establish their own government. You got to really look at it for what it really is, and get a clear understanding as to where you are, if you're here, or just taking in the indoctrination of America that's being broadcasted across the world. This is what it is. But my teacher.
Wow. Well, I did get my paperwork.
Yes,
I wanted to bring this to the table. Let me see if I can look at that. That's my good fellow there, Frederick Douglass.
No doubt.
Yeah, let's take a good look at that man right there. Yeah. So I got this piece, and I got this out of a museum, and I forget which one, because I went to the California African American Museum. Shout out to them. I went to the African American Museum in Boston. Shout out to them, and the African American Museum, obviously in Washington, D.C., the big national museum as well. And then there are others. So I pick these up whenever I go to the museums. I don't remember which one museum I got this particular one from, so I shout them all out, or at least these three. But Frederick Douglass here is this used to be a paper. This used to be his speeches. Obviously, you know, Frederick Douglass and others, when they gave speeches, people used to write them down, or they used to also sell copies of their speeches. Their speeches would show up in newspapers and so on. So that's how we actually have them and why they're printed in this kind of format. But because it's the 4th of July, I thought I would bring this out, that other perspective, so that we can have a rounded perspective. You already have the nationalistic perspective. You know that this is about the celebration of America's independence from Britain. Okay, but what do the British feel about this independence? The British are being very polite because America and the British are allies. So shout out to everybody in England and Britain right now for giving us a pass. Actually, but what really went down was treason. let's just keep it real, okay? What really went down was treason, and you got to ask yourself: a country founded at the very big, at the inception of the country, you're betraying your own countrymen. You're betraying the crown. You're betraying the government that is supplying you. You're actually using their supplies against them, their guns against them, their knowledge, their politics. You're using that against them to form the United States. Now, again, we're not criticizing, dissing, or just saying that's the only point to bring up. But as African Americans in this hip hop culture, it's important for us to bring up our perspective of the holiday. We just don't passively go along with whatever's being promoted. It is what it is. We see what it is. But when do we get to the truth? Native Americans might have something quite different to say. The indigenous populations of of this landmass might have something different to say about the 4th of July. You need to hear all of these perspectives. They all make sense. But if you only have that one, even if you only have the perspective that I'm putting forward, you don't have the whole story either. Son One was mentioning the Star Spangled Banner just briefly as he was talking, and that's a very potent example right there. Bombs bursting in air. I don't even remember this song. It's not a song that I would keep on my mind, but I do know that the basic lyrics, if we start from the beginning, I probably could get the whole thing down. But the idea of bombs bursting in air and our flag was still there, gave proof through the night. You know, this kind of thing, red glare and bombs bursting in air, this kind of thing. Think about who's on the receiving end of that. And think about why that's happening. Why are fireworks associated with the 4th of July? Because it was war, it was terrorism. It wasn't even really war, it was basically terrorism. bombs blowing up, guns shooting. The indigenous populations of the United States didn't have all that, didn't want all that. Their character wasn't about all that. So here comes now a foreign force that comes in now and blows everything up. And this is what we're celebrating. So you got to ask yourself, if you're a spiritual person, is this what your soul is celebrating? The terrorism of other populations? This is what you call spiritual? Well, some do. I'm quite sure. Christians, Muslims, Jews that sided with war and prayed over the bombs that was dropped on people and prayed over the bullets and brought God into the idea of subjugating indigenous populations. What is your spirituality? That's something to think about this July 4th. You know, what does your soul celebrate realistically? Because again, if your culture is the one that was doing the killing, then maybe you have a different perspective on it yourself. And you'll say, well, you know what? We had to do that so that we could do what we had to do. And that's part of my spirituality. You know, manifest destiny and, you know, God and providence gave us the United States. Mass murder and genocide is not part of this, but we're still spiritual. Well, Frederick Douglass said about the 4th of July, what to the slave is the 4th of July? That was his question. What to the slave is, and the reason I'm bringing this to you is as well, this was in Rochester, printed in a Rochester newspaper in Rochester, New York, July 5th, 1852. July 5th, 1852. Okay, and it was printed out like this. And I want you to see this. I'm not going to read. Oh, and that's the reason I'm showing you this, is because you should get your own copy so you can read the whole speech. Okay, get your own copy. And this is not even the whole speech. This is an excerpt of what was said. Okay, this is what we have in history. You can go online also and take a look at the whole speech, as well as what this is. I want to read a small part of this that I think exemplifies, actually sums up everything that this whole piece has to say, everything that Frederick Douglass had to say. This is just, I'm gonna read 2 paragraphs of this piece. Well, this is the 4th of July from an African-American revolutionary perspective. What to the American slave is your 4th of July? I answer, a day that reveals to him more than all other days in the year the gross injustice and cruelty to which he is the constant victim. To him, your celebration is a sham. This is Frederick Douglass. To him, to the slave, your celebration is a sham, your boasted liberty, an unholy license, your national greatness, swelling vanity. Your sounds of rejoicing are empty and heartless. Your denunciation of tyrants, brass, fronted impotence. Your shouts of liberty and equality, hollow mockery. Your prayers and hymns, your sermons and thanksgiving, with all your religious parade and solemnity, are to him mere bombast. Fraud, deception, empathy, and hypocrisy, a thin veil to cover up crimes which would disgrace a nation of savages. There is not a nation on earth guilty of practices more shocking and bloody than are the people of the United States at this very hour. I'm quoting Frederick Douglass here. Go where you may, search where you will, roam through all the monarchies and despotisms of the old world, travel through South America, search out every abuse. And when you have found the lies, lay your facts by the side of the everyday practices of this nation, and you will say with me that for revolting barbarity and shameless hypocrisy, America reigns without rival. End quote. I love Frederick Douglass right here. That's rhyming. That's poetry. More than poetry, though, my dude has laid it out. He laid it out, especially this last part right here. Go where you may, search where you will, roam through all the monarchies and despotisms of the old world, travel through South America, search out every abuse. And when you have found the last, lay your facts by the side of the everyday practices of this nation. And you will say with me that for revolting barbarity and shameless hypocrisy, America reigns without rival. Now that's what I call a 4th of July speech. Right there. That right there, that's just about sums it up. And we see this same revolting barbarity and shameless hypocrisy today. And this is what, this is 1852. Frederick Douglass talking the same talk in 1852 that we are experiencing today. And he said this on July 4th, 1852. He was asked to speak. Matter of fact, let me give you a little piece of that because it has it right here. It said, Frederick Douglass, a leading abolitionist and celebrated human rights leader, was born a slave in Maryland in 1818. It goes down. In this speech, delivered at the invitation of the Rochester Ladies Anti-Slavery Society, Douglass powerfully illustrates the hypocrisy of asking a slave to celebrate the 4th of July. What does the 4th of July mean to a slave, asks Douglass. A day that reveals to him more than all other days in the year the gross injustice and cruelty to which he is the constant victim. That was just the preamble to this piece right here. But when you really look at the 4th of July, you got to get all perspectives of that, because the 4th of July is a celebration of war. So who was on the other side? And it's not even really a celebration of war. More technically, it's a celebration of terrorism. Because the people on the other end of those bombs and guns was not just the British soldiers. You know, that it wasn't just about that. It was something completely different as well going on. This is not in history. Nobody ever, that mass genocide part, that Trail of Tears part, that slavery part that just stays out of history. And we get these pomp, what is it, boom bast and pomp. That's what we get. National vanity. So realize that as I bring this part of the lesson to a close, this is the 4th of July. And you got to ask yourself, how independent am I from this colonial system that seems to have us all doomed? This is a day of independence, a day to discuss independence, just like Thanksgiving. Sure, you can take it as the national holiday, or you could just take it like most people do as a thanks for the year that they've had and whatever blessing they have gotten. Well, the 4th of July is a day of independence, celebrating independence. Well, how independent are you? Looking past the national part of this, how independent are you? And we all depend on something, all of us. We all depend on air to breathe. We depend on water. We depend on the supermarket. We depend on our friends and our families. We all depend on something. So everybody really should be a little more humble, because we really are all depending on each other. I'm depending on the internet and this service right now. I'm depending on it. So the idea of dependency is not just an idea of, like most people look at it from a weakness point of view. Oh, you're dependent because you don't have anything, so you're dependent. That's not really what dependency is. Dependency is reliability. Reliability, that's the first part of it. Reliability. Are you dependable? Because sometimes when you are a dependent, it means that you are the one that are dependable to the one you are a dependent to. You and the independent and the dependent are linked together because they need one another. So there really is no independent. There really is no such thing as independent, really, because we're all connected. It's like there's really no such thing as objectivity because we're all subjective. We're all subjective. Nobody approaches nothing without their own prejudice, their own emotion, their own deal. You're looking through your own eyes, so you have your own opinion about things. So what is objectivity? We play with it philosophically. We know what it means to kind of imagine ourselves pulling back and looking at the situation. But when you really think about it, nothing's really objective. So when you think about independence, nothing is really independent. The person who really thinks like that is the colonist, the one who is separate. Even though you can't be separate in nature, somehow the colonist is separate. And you got to ask yourself, how dependent am I on that kind of thinking? Like, imagine we really don't believe that we're one with the trees around us. We really don't think that. I mean, think about that for a minute. We don't feel a oneness with the fish on our plate. We don't feel a oneness with the moon. These are things that are directly affecting us physically, but because of the colonial education we got, we don't connect ourselves to what's real. We connect ourselves to the symbols, words, and letters of colonial society. How dependent are you? On the 4th of July, on an Independence Day, this is a spiritual question to ask. It's a philosophical question to ask as well. How independent are you? Well, matter of fact, let me take a look at this now. Let me bring this in now. Let me bring the screen in now, real quick. When we refer to the screen, we're looking at words. We're looking at the etymology of words. And some of you are, again, new with us here. I don't want to have to keep going back and reiterating what this actually means. But I'm sorry, Simone was right there. You good? Yeah. Okay, sorry about that. What this means is that we usually go through the etymology. And like I said, I don't want to go through it, go over it again, but I know we might have some new people here, so I'll just say this one time. When we are discussing certain topics, like right now we're discussing independence, dependency, the 4th of July, being the day, we bring up the etymology of the words in which we're discussing. That's philosophical. This is the part that philosophy brings to your study, even your spiritual studies. When you're studying something or approaching something spiritually, philosophy really pulls the books out and gets with the literal interpretation of words and looks at reality for itself. We're interested in touching reality directly. And the one thing that we know is that most of us have been trained to see reality through words, through numbers, through shapes, through colors. This is how we see our reality. And it's not the only way to see it. I mean, you have smell, touch, taste, and all this other stuff. But from an intellectual point of view, if we don't have a word for something, we kind of overlook it. And so we start with words so that once you have the word, you can see. You can see. And now you can see and make proper decisions to point to wisdom. So here we have the Oxford English Dictionary. And what we're looking at is the word independence, independence, dependency, these kinds of words. And when we come up here on depend, now some of you there, I'm looking here and I might have to dim my light real quick so that we can get this here. I don't know if you can see fully. I'll read it for you, but this is a blow up of this book right here. This is the Oxford English Dictionary. the compact edition of the Oxford, you need a magnifying glass to look at these words. Every word, or it's not every word, but they try to give a history to every word in the English language. It's a fascinating book unto itself, the work itself. But we use this because the Oxford English Dictionary gives the history of the word as opposed to just the meaning of the word. Most dictionaries just give the meaning of the word. They don't really give you the history. Oxford English gives you the history, and because we're speaking English, Oxford English from Britain is the true English. What we are speaking here in the United States is called American. And then, of course, Black folk are speaking something called Black Vernacular English. These are all these terms that linguists give us in our existence. But I'm bringing it to you so you have a full understanding of what we're looking at here. Okay, so now here's the word depend. And what's interesting about the word depend is that you'll see the first part of the word depend means to hang or to suspend. One, to hang down, be suspended. Okay, to depend means to hang down, like fruit from a tree or something, to hang down. Here's a B definition, to hang down. Here's two definition, figuratively, to hang upon or from as a result or consequence, is contingently attached to its condition or cause, to be contingent on or conditioned by something, is to depend on it as well. Take a look at these early definitions of depend. It means to hang down. To depend is to hang down. So even if somebody says, you're depending on me, it's not like you're lifting them up like the vision of the Atlas. It's more that they are hanging on you. They're hanging, there's something hanging on you. That's something that depends, is hanging off of you. As you can see, to hang down. Moving now, this is further definitions of depend. To follow or flow from the result of. Okay, that which you follow or what flows from the result from. You are to depend in this sense means that you are the product of something, but you follow or flow from. You come from this other thing. You follow or come from or flow from or are the result of something else. So you depend. 3, with, on, upon, to be connected with, in a relation of subordination, to belong to as something subordinate, to be a dependent of. Now that's what most people look at the definition of a dependent, or to depend on somebody. They say, oh, I got to do what you say because I'm dependent upon you. That's the third definition, as you can see. It's part of dependency, but it's not the whole of it. This is the third definition, to be subordinate to something in relation. Your relation to something is that you are subordinate and that is over you. You are the inferior. You are the, you can't exist without this other thing. B, to be dependent, to have or take a position of dependence. Okay, so what does it mean to depend? To be a dependent, to take a position of dependence. And that's what dependence is, a position. 4, to rest entirely on or upon for maintenance, support, supply, or what is needed, to have to rely upon, to be a burden upon, to be sustained by, to be dependent upon. All of this is what it means to depend on someone. 5, to rely in mind, count, or recognition confidently upon. You thinking, my thinking depends on. The other one was my action depends on. The other one was my existence depends on. To depend and dependency all has to do with something else in control of you. moving forward. Depend. This is another look at the word depend. And you can see this is the obsolete version. Those that study with us, you know that when you see OBS in the Oxford English Dictionary, or you see this cross, it's a sign, a symbol for obsolete meanings, meaning this is not the current definition. This is the early one that is no longer in use. That's why it's OBS, obsolete, or have a cross next to it, which is the symbol of something being obsolete. And I don't know why that's the case, but that's what the symbol means. So here we have the word depend, and this is an older definition of what it means to depend. It means to pay down, or away, spend, expend, to spend. Okay, dependable, that may be depended on, trustworthy, reliable. Sort of a different take on the word depend, not a burden now, not subordinate to, not coming from, but in fact, paying down. And look at the cultural aspect of this. If to depend means to be a subordinate to someone, why are you paying? It's like the subordinates were paying the taxes. So it's like, you know, they were, you know, and this is an old meaning too, because this is back when serfs and lords and people were basically getting robbed, which is now called taxed for their goods. You have to give to them. And so that depend being to pay down or pay away or spend or expend is interesting. It says also here in the Latin to weigh, to pay. Interesting. Here's dependent, and it has two spellings, D-E-P-E-N-D-A-N-T and D-E-P-E-N-D-E-N-T. They put both up here and they say they both are right. And they both mean the same thing. Now, of course, they give a definition on it. I don't need to read that. I just told you that in that sense. But here's the first definition with the cross next to it as well. Something subordinately attached or belonging to something else. A subordinate part, a Puritan's dependency. Now, that's the old definition. Something subordinately attached or belonging to something else. That's a dependent. Now, that's what it still is today. But they're telling you that back then, this is what it was as well. And these dependents, as you can see, were also paying. Okay. 2, a person who depends on another for support, position, etc. A retainer, attendant, subordinate, servant. Here's dependence. The action of hanging down. Wanted to bring this dependence back up because in the Oxford English Dictionary, the idea of something hanging down and something subordinate is the word depend and dependence means the same thing. The original, as we saw, was hanging down. Later on, it became subordinate to or coming from, and possibly because of the hanging down concept. Here's dependence, the action of hanging down, something that hangs down. Dependent, and you notice the ENT here as well. 1, hanging down, pendant. 2, that depends on something else having its existence contingent on or conditioned by the existence of something else. So here's dependent and the 2 definitions. First definition is that dependent means something hanging down. The second definition is something that's depending on something else. Independence, the condition or quality of being independent. The fact of not depending on another with various shades of meaning, See the adjectives. Exemption from external control or support. Freedom from subjugation or from the influence of others. Individual liberty of thought or action, rarely in bad sense. Want of subjugation to rightful authority. Insubordination. That's another level of it, right? So, and notice what they're saying. Independence is insubordination. You see this here at the bottom? Rarely in bad sense. Rarely in bad sense. This is the bad version. It's not rarely it's spoken of bad. This is rarely the bad sense of this is spoken rarely. This is the bad sense of independence. Rarely in bad sense. Want of subjugation to rightful authority. I want you to subject. And there's people walking around every day like this. They want that subjugation. They want to feel the authority. And in some cases, and I don't say that, disrespectfully, because in some cases you want that authority. Like when it comes to your parents, you want that father, you want that mother. If you've had a loving father or mother, you want that authority on you. So I'm not going to diss that and say, that's crazy. But in my mind, I was thinking of people who want, this colonial authority. They believe in what they're told by proven liars and thieves. Rarely in a bad sense, want of subjugation to rightful authority. Insubordination. Insubordination. Not doing what you told, going against what you told. That is independence. And this is what a colonial system is always trying to take away from its victims. Their sense of independence, their sense of existence, their ability to move freely as they see fit. This is what enslavement is about. It's not just about working you hard or whipping you. That's Hollywood. Real enslavement is dependency. Real enslavement is when you can't stop or get away from this person or this situation. That's the real, not you getting beaten with. That's Hollywood. So we come over here, independence. This is what hip hoppers need to begin to think about on this day. How independent are you? How much of a free thinker are you? Here's the word independent. Not depending upon the authority of another. And like I mentioned, this has a double meaning to it because I want the authority of my father. Matter of fact, I want the authority of someone smarter than me. I'm sick. I need to go to the doctor. The doctor's smarter than me. That's why I'm going to the doctor. The doctor says, do this, do that, and do the other. I'm depending. I am depending upon the authority of another. I am subordinate because I want to get healed. Those who have employment, good jobs, you have to be subordinate. You're not doing no insubordination, you'll be fired. You got a good job, you want to keep the job. Come back here. You want to keep the job, you got to be dependent upon authority of another. So keep this in mind when you seek independence. All my independent women, put your hands up. Okay? Is that all my insubordinate women, put your hands up? Is it, women ain't dependent on no authority, put your hands up. This has several meanings to it. Independence. And that's why I'm showing, I'm bringing this out because we're getting just a little deep into how independent are you from the nonsense you see every day outside in the street? How independent are you from your cravings, from your temptations? How independent are you from this colonial system that's trying to control how fast you can move and how fast you can think? How much do you rely on that? That's the question. So here's two with independent. Okay, that's what we're talking about, independent now. Okay, belonging or adhering to that form of ecclesiastical polity called independence. I just give you this, it's the congregation. The second definition of independent is with the church. Just hit you with that. But now come down here to 3. See down here with 3, okay? Not depending on something else for its existence, validity, efficiency, operation, or some other attribute, not contingent on or conditioned by anything else. And this is where I say, you know, what is that? Like, there's nothing in nature that is this. This is not even reality, but this is the Western colonial approach to this word independence. Let me hit you with it again. 3, this is the third definition of independent. Not depending on something else for its existence, validity, efficiency, operation, or some other attribute, not contingent on or conditioned by anything else. Now, nothing in nature is this. Nothing. Everything is connected and contingent upon something else. Everything, except the mind of the colonist, who says within his own mind, I am not part of the world. I am not part of the earth. I'm not part of nature. I am above nature. I must control nature. I'm not part of the universe. I must control it. How dependent are you on that kind of thinking? 4, not dependent or have, this is now, we're still talking about independent. Not dependent or having to rely on another for support or supplies. Okay. B, not dependent on anyone else for one's living. Not needing to earn one's livelihood, possessing a competency. This last part is real interesting. Not needing to earn one's livelihood, possessing a competency. Now that's an interesting piece right here, because first of all, not dependent on anyone else for one's living. Then what is the United States is not independent. Because that slavery piece right there, the United States was dependent upon Black people working and thinking to make this country what it is. These English colonists were dependent. That's where the terrorism came up. That's where the justification for the terrorism came. We need this. We have to enslave you. We need this. Our livelihood, our wealth, our everything is based on your subjugation, and it still is. America can't function with the Black man rising, with the Black family rising. That's not how it was built. It was built on our subjugation. So if you look here at the definitions of what independence is and what it means to be independent, you see that it's bombast and vanity. And when you really think about it, America ain't independent. There's nothing independent about America. First, America betrayed its mother country. That's not independence. That's betrayal. That's treason. That's not independence. Because America was, or the colonists were dependent on Britain for their livelihood. So they weren't independent. Now they declared themselves independent, but they still had British goods, British knowledge, British resources, British names. They were British. So how you independent? You're not independent. You're still relying on something else for your existence. And from Britain, you went over now to African Americans. Well, you really went to the Native Americans, and then now you over to the African Americans, trying to enslave people. That's not independence. An independent nation doesn't need to enslave other people for its livelihood. Knowledge. Take a look at it. And this is what I'm trying to explain here right now to get past the hype. When we talk about words like independence and independent? As philosophers, let's take a good look at it. And as philosophers, let us take a look at the words in which we're using and talking. Here's independent: sufficient to make one independent, constituting a competency. This is the other part to that. Competency, agency, being able to do something, skills unto yourself. This is the beginning of real independence. To have competency, to know how to do something. Those who cut hair are independent. Those who can cook are independent. Those who heal people, those who negotiate, make deals, they're good with the mouth. They can talk their way into something. What are your skills? This is the real independence, competency. What can you do? What do you know? When you open your mouth, what comes out? This is going to determine whether you're going to be independent or dependent. And keep in mind that we all have to take decisions on that, whether it's independent or dependent, because like I'm pointing out to you, there is no such thing as independent. We are all connected and we are all in need of each other. Don't nobody live by themselves. No man is an island. No man stands alone. So what is independence then? And how do we approach this word where it's useful to us in a realistic sense? Here's how you do it. First of all, this word competency is very important because your competency is not really dependent on these external forces. Some will be, but it's not really. This is something you know, something you do. And even your skills are still dependent upon your ancestors and upon others who may have influenced you. And so again, independence even here with competency does not exist. Art, there's no originality in art or in thought. It's all here. So, but you can carve out for yourself a sense of independence through competency. What can your hands do? And this brings us to hip hop, because we argue at the Temple of Hip Hop that hip hop is a human skill. Hip hop is human competency. I could rap, break, dance, I could break dance, I could pop, I could do my thing without plugging into nothing. I don't need no technology, no electricity, nothing to present hip hop. And hip hop is what's feeding me right now. Real independence begins with the mastery of your internal skills. Hip hop is our culture. Hip hop, the elements of our culture, are also our agency. This is also our competency. This is what we know how to do. So to be independent, we can't allow other people to take our competency from us and say that our competency and what we know we do from our heart and from what we know we do, we're going to let a corporation or some colonial situation come in and tell us who we are and take our art from us. This is what we up against. And the revolution only works for those that participate. So all them people you see on TV, internet, video, that's up there wasting their life. Wasting their life. This is not wasting their time. They're having a good time. They're wasting their life, though. Because when you're 20, you don't see nothing. You're just like, yo, we gotta chill, yeah. Then 50 comes on you. And they say, youth is wasted on the young. Because when you get to the 50 and you look back and you say, damn, I could have, I should have, I would have. But it's too late now. That was 30 years ago. Now you this guy. And you didn't do what you were supposed to do when you was that guy. Now you got to suffer the truth. And the truth usually deals with your dependence versus your independence. Your dependency versus your independency. The older you get, the more dependent you become. And it don't have to be like this. It doesn't have to be like this at all. But the older you get, most people, the way they live their lives, they become more dependent on the system, more dependent on family, more dependent on whatever to survive. You 80 years old, you 90 years old, you got to survive. You still trying to survive. What did you do when you was 30? Well, what did you do when you was 25 to protect you at 45? These are the principles of independence, agency, competency. I'm not going to be led by the world. I'm going to be led by my principles. I'm going to be led by what's right, not what's wrong. Everybody know what's wrong. Everybody know what wrong is, but we still do it anyway. Can't help it. Gotta do it. Well, how dependent are you on wrong? How dependent are you on destroying other people's lives? And say, it was just my job. These are dependencies. And this is what makes a person a slave. These kinds of dependencies. This is a blow up of 4. We already looked at this as well. Not dependent or having to rely upon another for support or supplies. We already looked at that. We looked at simply not dependent on anyone else for one's living. Not dependent on anyone else for one's living. That's hip hop. That's hip hop. We are not dependent on nobody for our living. Now, of course, we are dependent upon radio stations, video checks, those that go that route. CD and tape CD and flash drive manufacturing. These things, we need turntables. We're all interconnected. I want to keep pounding that point on you right there. Every time I say something's independent, no, let me put this disclaimer on it. Nothing is independent. But in the scheme of what we're talking about here, hip hop offers us the independence we're looking for. Hip hop is agency. If you can MC, you're independent. Nothing makes you that. Nothing's contingent on just open your mouth, start. If you can dance, if you can do art, okay, all of this is coming from you. If your hands can touch a turntable and make it sing, this is agency. This is you. This is the importance of your culture, and this is why corporations are stealing it from you. A thief does not take something that's not valuable. Remember that. Thieves only take what is valuable. That's why they're in your culture. And that's why we teach in the lesson right now. Because we are awake and aware that this is what they're doing. We know what they're doing. But guess what? There's a bunch of people who want them to do it. In our culture. In hip hop. People who are real hip hoppers. Really contributed. Know what the rules are. Know what the history is. Been to the summits, been to all that, real hip hoppers. They're the ones putting on the award shows. They're the ones putting on the TV. They're at XM Satellite. These are real hip hoppers, but go listen to XM Satellite. Go look at the latest award show. These are hip hoppers. But are they? They know what the rules are. They know where we're coming from, but they refuse to promote original hip hop. Why? Why is it so important for the Smithsonian with the Universal Hip Hop Museum? Why is it so important for them to document hip hop and without the voices of real hip hop? without any of our voices involved. Why are they so concerned with our culture? Something that some ignorant black folk just came up with. Ignorant blacks and Latinos with nothing going for them, Generation X. They was just dancing and talking into the mic, and it don't mean nothing. It ain't about nothing. It ain't nothing. But we gonna steal it. We gonna take every piece of this and make major billion-dollar corporations out of it. Wake up. Wake up. What you have is valuable. But the thief don't want you to know that because he's stealing. The minute you wake up and realize how valuable hip hop is, you're protected from thieves. What we're doing right now is we dependent upon thieves for our activity in hip hop. We have no sense of culture unto ourselves. Well, I do. And most of you on this call do. Most of us here have a sense of culture. A sense of culture. We know that hip hop is not what's being portrayed on the television. We know that. Other people know that too, but they still want to project the lie. Why? Why? Why is it so important to distort hip hop and not play the originals? Why is that so important? Well, they're messing with your power, with your sovereignty. And this happens every generation. And of course, every generation there's a guy like me that stands up and says, hey, they steal it from you. And then they say, I'll get out of here, KRS. What is he talking about? Now you 50. And you look back and you say, damn, we coulda, we shoulda, we coulda, shoulda. Well, see, this is what I'm saying. Revolution only works for those that participate in it. The only reason I'm even able to sit here right now with you and talk with you like this right now is because I'm successful at what I did. I'm successful at what I did. Look at me, okay? Do I look sad? Do I look sick? Do I look, come on, I look at my weight. I ain't bragging about that, but I'm just saying, like, brothers eating, no doubt. Okay, so I'm just saying. Back when we was yelling, love's gonna get you. When you fall in love with the car, with the thing, we said it. Then we went to the universities and we preached it. Who listened? Who listened? A few people listened, a few did listen, and they saved themselves. But the majority, nah, man, I don't care what KRS, what he done. Okay, I'm not trying to put myself above nobody. I just know what the truth is. So I kept the truth to myself. I didn't put my money in cars and diamonds. I put my money into books and knowledge. And now I'm here. I ain't bragging, but I'm here. So, okay, did a show the other day, had dudes' mouths open. So you already know how I go down. The energy is still here. I'm getting ready to break these dudes in Virginia next week. Shout out to Virginia real quick. Y'all about to get it, okay? And you know how it is in Virginia. Shout the whole Virginia real quick. But you know how it is. The birthplace of slavery too, Virginia, 1619, Jamestown. Okay, y'all right there with, I'm going to talk to my brothers and sisters. We going to get free. Okay, this is what's going to be. But take a look at my attitude. I'm in my 50s right now. When I was in my 20s, I was preaching the same thing. A different articulation, of course, but the same general premise. Hip hop is a culture. Let's take it away from these corporations. Let's unite as hip hoppers. Let's take care of our children in the future. We have $1 billion culture. Why we need anything from anybody else? Let's unite and get some land and start building a city and have our own constitution. I went ahead and did the work. It's called the Hip Hop Declaration of Peace. We went to the United Nations, declared ourselves a culture legally. Okay, I'm not even talking about what we can get. I'm talking about just who we are. Well, this is what independence is. And that's why I'm bringing it all to you right now like this. This is what independence is. Can you think faster than your enemy? Most people, like they say they do, but their actions don't really equal out to that. And it's a sad thing too, you know. It's a sad thing when you have information and you tell it to your people and they either reject you or ignore the information or both. And then years later, they suffer because of it. I mean, I don't want to dwell on this, but just take a look at the police brutality situation. When we did the Stop the Violence movement, we had a plan for how to deal with the police. And that plan started with the way in which media is publicizing young Black and Latino people. We said that back in 1989. That the way in which we're being depicted in mass media is causing average people, which are also police officers, DAs, lawyers, judges, and everybody locking us up, COs, they watch TV too. They watch TV too. The FBI, the CIA, the NSA, they all are judges of all kinds of courts. Watch the TV. And here we are, cocaine, I'm coked up, I'm smoking, I'm drinking, I'm fucking, I'm everything but learning. Everything but uniting with your brother. Everything but peace. Everything but love. Everything but unity. Nah, that's that old school shit, right? Nah. Well, now you suffer. Now we have a Black Lives Matter movement. How did that happen on Barack Obama's watch? With a Black head of justice, Eric Holder. How did that happen? How did Black Lives Matter should have been done with George Bush, maybe. Maybe Clinton to be more accurate, okay? That's what it probably should have been done. No, Black president with a Black head of justice. We getting shot in the back, choked, burnt, just abused. And we still walking around talking about a vote. You know, I'm only going to speak honestly, okay? You may not agree, you may not have, you can always turn me off, you know, if this gets too heated for you. But the truth has to come out. Somebody got to speak the truth. And I don't hear too much of it coming out of the mouths of people with me, like me, people who have some sort of a following or a microphone, a bullhorn to talk to. I don't hear too many people talking truth. We're scared that somebody's going to say something about us online. We're scared that we're going to lose a job. We're scared of what other people, just all scared. So nobody gets the truth. Now, spiritual knowledge is supposed to give you courage. Knowledge itself is supposed to give you power. So if you don't have no courage and you ain't have no power, then what are you studying? I mean, keep it really, really, really real. You got a Bible in your hand, you're still sick and broke and depressed. You got the Quran in your hand, you still sick, broke, depressed. You got the Bhagavad Gita, you got the Torah, you got the Upanishads, all this in your hand, and we still can't get racism out of society. All of that is nonsense then. Every book is whack then. We're talking about the sovereign mind of the universe, God. And we still dealing with racism? Hold on. Racism is above God now? What? Women still can't get an equal shake in this society? Still. Okay, God is more feminine than anything. And women can't get a shake in this society. No, I think we're praising the wrong God. I think the evidence is out there. I think the evidence is clear. The spirituality that we're studying, the religions that we're studying, the philosophies that we're studying, they're bullshit. They don't make no sense. If you ain't talking like me right now, you don't make no sense to the real streets of America. Sorry. I know we want to go to the rainforest. I know we want to be in the desert. We want to go to an ashram. We want to go to some spiritual retreat somewhere. I know that's what it really is. We want to sit in a meditative state and talk about Buddhism and Hinduism while black folk get shot in the back. No job, no health care, no housing. My wife just saw a thing. It was so ridiculous. I can't even repeat it about real estate. You know the story, but some of you may have even seen it. Black couple go up to the company. We want to sell our house. They say, your house worth $400,000. Because they say, 400,000? Yeah, 400,000. That's it, black couple. Then they said, you know what? Let me get my white friend over here and ask for the same house. Bring their white friend over. White friend go, I want to sell my house. Same $400,000 house, now $1.2 million. You see, this is the problem we have in the country. It's not about changing laws. It ain't about Republican, Democrat. It ain't about none of that. It's about the human heart and the human mind. If you're not going to speak real spirituality, then people are not really going to heal, because laws don't change people. God does. Spirit changes people. The spiritual laws, principles change people. But if you don't teach principles to our children, if all you're giving them is dinky do and dookie dack, then what the hell? We're going to grow up stupid. And this is what the government wants. This is what a colonial government wants. They want a stupid, uninformed populace so they could tell you what to do, work on your fears, massage your emotions, and make you feel like something you're not. See, this is what the real is. Let me turn back over here to dependent. This is independent. Again, let me bring you back here. I'm gonna bring this to a close. We're coming up on our first break as well. Someone get that funk ready. I need that right now. But here we are. Sufficient to make one independent, constituting a competency. Back to this is a blow up of what we saw before, and I'm going to put an emphasis back on this word competency as a part of independence. What can you do with your hands, with your mouth, with your body, independent of anybody around you or any system around you? What can you do that's valuable? Well, I could rap straight up. I could break. I could do graffiti, or I could cut, mix, and scratch. I could do beatboxing. These things don't require no technology or any political system for its value. It comes from me, and it's divine, and it's in demand. The public wants this. The public wants to hear me rhyme. The public wants to see my DJing. The public wants my beats. The public wants my artwork. The people want what hip hop is about. And that's why corporations are stealing it. They don't have the people. We have the people. But we have to wake up to the fact that we are a sovereign nation of people. And we have the power to dictate where we go, how we look, how we sound. People shouldn't be able to just say, this is hip hop, and it's prostitution and pornography, and we don't do nothing. We don't say nothing. We don't support nothing. We just allow it to happen. And now you 60. And now you ain't got nowhere to go. They threw you away. They threw the next guy away. Now you're going to the old folk home, and now it's over. Come on, man. We could do better than this. We could do much better than this. Much, much better than this. So let me bring you now to our first break. I'm gonna take a quick break. Real quick, actually, I'm just gonna get some colder water. My water got warm down here. I'm gonna grab some colder water, and we're gonna come back with the gospel of hip hop. Turn your gospels. We're gonna continue our reading. Turn your gospel to page 67. Page 67. We're gonna continue at paragraph 47. Page 67. Continuing our reading at page 47. We're not gonna get through the whole chapter today because we are going to get into the pages that we are going to read. We're going to read from 67 to 87, 10 pages today, 67 to 87. I'll be right back in a moment. This is the Temple of Hip Hop. I am KRS-ONE.
All right, I'm gonna get it together. I swear to you. I'm over here jamming. Oh, that is so funny. Let's see. Let's see. Oh, the teacher's back.
Yes, I am. You seem to be struggling. What's up?
Oh no! I had to join going. Now I keep turning my mic off and mic on, to make sure that you're being heard clear. And it's at the third. You're jamming all by my lonesome.
I saw you. That's what I was saying. I saw you. I was like, I guess that's what it is.
Nah.
Water. Okay. Okay. I actually I got some colder water, but I drank it too fast. It went down the wrong pipe. So I'm still here clearing my throat. As they say, let me clear my throat. When we first started, when we first started broadcasting today, we were playing the Three Natures of Hip Hop.
Mm-hmm.
And what I want to do is go over that again. Our reading is going to bring us over to that. So I'm going to start the reading, and then when we get over to the Three Natures of Hip Hop, I'm going to reiterate that lesson again, because that's really the meat of this particular reading that we're going to do right now. So those that have the Gospel of Hip Hop, turn to page 67, and we're starting at paragraph, 47. Let me just clear my throat again. Yeah. Okay. That seemed to have done it. Huh? Yeah. Okay, so page 67, paragraph 47. Traditionally, hip-hop has been approached as an art form that consists of 4 core elements: b-boying or breakdancing, b-girling as well, breaking, b-girling, b-boying, breakdancing, MCing or rap, aerosol art, graffiti art, and DJing, the cutting, mixing, and scratching of recorded materials. Now stop here for a minute. This is not a highlight. And those who were with us last week, you should have already highlighted 46 and 45, paragraphs 46 and 45. That should have already been highlighted. But what we're talking about here, I want you to look at the spellings of MCing, actually of b-boying, MCing, aerosol art, and DJing. Look at the spellings of those. For scholars, you should know that this is Zulu Nation spelling of the elements. We snuck that in at the beginning of our teaching because we carry Zulu Nation's knowledge with us at the Temple of Hip Hop. We don't carry everything, obviously, but the cultural parts of what early Zulu Nation was teaching, we carry that tradition into our teachings. We don't broadcast it because we want Zulu Nation to have their own independence in that way. But as scholars, you cannot discuss hip hop without discussing Zulu Nation. That's impossible. And when you look at other works, other scholarly works, if you don't see Zulu Nation or some reference to Zulu Nation or members of Zulu Nation, if you don't see that, you're not reading the real history. That's just straight up. You're not reading history. You're reading somebody's propaganda. And most of these books are simply that, propaganda. So I bring you here to paragraph 47, and I make a special emphasis here that the specific spellings that you see here are from one of the lessons that I had from Zulu Nation. Of course, their lessons are updated, but when this book was being done, I used this spelling because we're saying traditionally, hip hop has been approached as an art form that consists of 4 core elements: b-boying, breakdancing, MCing, rap, aerosol art, graffiti writing, and DJing, the cutting, mixing, and scratching of recorded materials. These are called the core 4 elements. These are called the core 4. However, hip hop's core 4 elements also encompass specific and unique urban clothing styles, language styles, business and trade techniques, as well as a collective body of knowledge derived from its internal experiences with itself and with the world. Now, the second part to this is Temple of Hip Hop. So you got to understand, this is not a highlight, but you got to know that paragraph 47 begins with Zulu Nation and ends with Temple of Hip Hop. So it starts here. Traditionally, hip hop has been approached as an art form that consists of 4 core elements: b-boying, breakdancing, MCing, rap, aerosol art, graffiti writing, and DJing, the cutting, mixing, and scratching of recorded materials. That's the old knowledge. That's the traditional. That's the original. Now, Temple of Hip Hop. These are called the core 4. However, hip hop's core 4 elements also encompass specific and unique urban clothing styles, language styles, business and trade techniques, as well as a collective body of knowledge derived from its internal experiences with itself and the world. Let me also add that along with breaking, MCing, graffiti writing, and DJing, Zulu Nation would add knowledge and overstanding. So the original elements of hip hop, when we first started to look at hip hop as a collective thing, it was breaking, MCing, graffiti art, DJing, knowledge, and overstanding. These were the original elements. Now, after that, beatboxing came into play, and fashion and all this other stuff jumped off. We at the Temple of Hip Hop coded all of it. All of it got coded We documented and defined and interviewed and researched all of what hip hop was about. And that brings us to the other 5 elements. It's the first 4 that caused the other 5 to exist. Paragraph 48. The experiences produced by hip hop's core 4 have created uniquely rich hip hop stories, hip hop legends and myths, original hip hop arts, popular hip hop music, and thought-provoking hip-hop poetry that critiques and interprets the world in which the hip-hop community exists. At first glance, hip-hop can be seen as simply an urban music genre inspired by the African-American and Latino youths of the Bronx during the early 1970s. However, upon closer observation, hip-hop becomes a way of life, a specific way of being and seeing the world, a unique view of the world and world events. And also take a look at the different spellings of hip hop. That's going to be the core of our lesson today. You saw, those who were here early saw a little piece of that at the beginning, the 3 natures of hip hop. I'm going to go over that again. But we're alluding to it within the writing here. Take a look. It says, at first glance, hip hop can be seen as simply an urban music genre inspired by the African-American and Latino youths of the Bronx during the early 1970s. However, and now the spelling changes, upon closer observation, hip hop as consciousness becomes a way of life, a specific way of being and seeing the world, a unique view of the world and world events. This next paragraph is a highlight. Let's get to it. Paragraph 49, we're highlighting paragraph 49. We are uniquely hip hop because the repetition of such a unique being and seeing has created our specific hip hop way of life. And the hip hop way of life is what we call hip hop's culture or hip hop culture. Notice the spelling. As culture, hip hop is the specific behaviors, traits, expressions, patterns, and institutions of our unique collective consciousness. It, hip hop, is our intellectual and artistic activity as well as the works produced by it. Hip hop is our competency. Catch 49 one more time. We're highlighting 49, catch 49 one more time. We are uniquely hip hop because the repetition of such a unique being and seeing, the repetition of it, has created our specific hip hop way of life. And the hip hop way of life is what we call hip hop's culture or hip hop culture. And notice the spelling. Hip hop is one word, culture with a K. As culture, hip hop is the specific behavior, and this is what culture is. The specific behaviors, traits, expressions, patterns, and institutions of our unique collective consciousness. It, hip hop, is our intellectual and artistic activity as well as the works produced by it. Highlight that. In the past, some argued that hip hop was not a culture. They made the mistake of comparing their knowledge of traditional cultures to hip hop's culture. But as the great hip hop professor Zizwe Ntafuta Ukweli, Professor Z, pointed out, quote, culture is the character of a living entity. That entity could be an organism or an entire generation functioning as an organism. Every culture has its linchpin aspects or that which makes its membership pledge allegiance to it. Culture also provides a fence around the collective epic memory of the group, which accepts this memory as its philosophy and history. Professor Z continues, our culture, hip hop, is strengthened through a heightened self-awareness and a heightened awareness of the surrounding environment. For every young culture, the relationship between it and its environment is dynamic and determinate. The culture seeks to absorb all it can from the environment, yet must prevent itself from being totally absorbed by the environment. Total absorption by the environment means certain death for any culture. Part of any cultural identity is distinctiveness. This is why hip hop is so successful. As a young culture, hip hop absorbs musics, like it absorbs the music of blues, gospel, rock, soul, and jazz, but is absorbed by none of them. End quote. Over the years, hip hop's absorption of older musical and artistic traditions helped to create a certain lifestyle and worldview unique to the total hip hop experience. This is what we now call hip hop's culture. Rap is something we do. Hip hop is something we live. And the living of hip hop's culture has more to do with your sense of security, peace, self-development, and well-being than it has to do with performing one or two of hip hop's artistic elements. Living hip hop is far more involved than performing hip hop. For if you do not live a productive hip hop lifestyle, you increase your difficulty in maintaining a lasting success in any part of hip hop's traditional elements or artistic expressions. This is why hip hop is not regarded as simply a music genre here. For us, such an approach to hip hop is indeed dangerous to the practicing hip hopper. Here's a highlight. Highlight 54. The music and dances of hip hop come from a collective urban view of the world that inspires such music and dance to exist. It is hip hop's worldview that inspires, or rather causes, its music, art, and dance to exist. Highlight that. This is an important part of your explanation of hip hop and the difference between culture and the products of the culture. I'll read it again. Paragraph 54. The music and dances of hip hop come from a collective urban view of the world. Our music and dance comes from a collective urban view of the world that inspires such music and dance to exist. It is hip hop's worldview that inspires, or rather causes, its music, art, and dance to exist. That's very important because what most people want to do is cut off the culture and just deal with the music and the art. So you don't get no real history. You don't get no rights even, because culture deals with rights. Once you recognize my culture, you got to recognize my rights. So we ain't recognizing nobody's rights. Let's just start with the music. Music don't have no rights. We just gonna start with the music and force you a contract. And this is what they're trying to do to us right now. Just start with the art. Let's just start with the art and the music. No culture. So here, this line becomes very important because we point out that the music and the art and the dance are produced by a worldview. We think about things. We have feelings about things, and the ways in which we think and feel about the world is expressed in our rhymes, our music, and our art. Because we can't express it on CNN, we can't express it on C-SPAN, we can't express it on XM satellite, we can't express it on BET, we can't express it nowhere but in our music, our art, and our knowledge, our collective knowledge, our music, our art, and our dance. That's what we get to express ourselves. And look at that, I'm not even gonna go off on a tangent about democracy, which is a hypocrisy. But why is it that my voice can only be heard in my own medium, but we live in a democracy? Nah, if we lived in a democracy, my voice would be heard and responded to. But my voice is not, and when I say my voice, I mean our voice, the voice of hip hop. Our voice is not being responded to at all. How is this a democracy then? You got to think about this during July 4th, Independence Day. This is the thinking we should be engaged in. But let me continue with this. So don't let them just start you off with art. Your art comes from an opinion about the world. So your art comes from a feeling you have about the environment you're in. So we say that it is hip hop's worldview that inspires or causes its music, art, and dance to exist. and you're only highlighting that part. I forgot to say that. I think some of you may have highlighted the whole 54. No, we're only highlighting the first two sentences of 54. The music and dance of hip hop comes from a collective urban view of the world that inspires such music and dance to exist. It is hip hop's worldview that inspires, or rather causes, its music, art, and dance to exist. That's what we're highlighting. Continuing, same paragraph. This is why so many of hip hop's history books, many of the hip hop history, but notice the spelling of hip hop there as well, history book of my time are so culturally limited. They focus primarily upon the money-making effects of hip hop and not upon what causes such effects to occur. Music and art are very important elements that assist in the makeup of hip hop as a whole. Notice the spelling of hip hop. However, it is hip hop, notice the spelling again, itself, our collective consciousness, that brings into manifestation rap music, breaking, and aerosol art, as well as the other urban expressions that derive from our unique life experiences. Our unique life experiences and the performances that occur as a result of such unique life experiences are called real hip hop. For us, real hip hop is a transformative power that has its beginnings at the genesis of human awareness. Its elements are seen throughout human history and all over the world. And this is no accident. We did not arrive at our place in the world by luck. God is truly with us. And we must never forget to honor God in our writings and performances. Hip-hop is the return of the ancient ways, the healing ways, the natural ways, the way of God. Now notice the spelling on God and God, capital G-O-D, capital G, lowercase o-d. We'll get to that. Paragraph 57. Whether on the cave walls of Northern Africa 20,000 years ago, or as Egyptian hieroglyphs with its letters and characters describing ancient life some 10,000 years ago, or as Mayan and Inca pyramid and temple hieroglyphs, graffiti art, or as the griots and Tijeles who performed for the royal courts of Ghana, Songhai, present-day Mali, some 2,000 years ago, MCs, DJs, or as the capoeira martial arts of the 16th century, Angola breaking, or as the social organization of Aboriginal Americans since the dawn of creation, hip-hop has always existed as a unique awareness that enhances one's ability to self-create. Hip-hop is a site, an ancient behavior, today an alternative way to view the world. Hip-hop is the correct pronunciation of hip-hop, and this is as a spelling that I'm reading here. Hip-hop is the correct pronunciation of hip-hop. As an acronym affirmation, hip-hop, H-I-P-H-O-P, can be interpreted as her infinite power helping oppressed people, or having inner peace helping others prosper, or wholly integrated people having omnipresent power. Hip-hop means all of this. And again, shout out to G. Simone on that. Here's the highlight. We're highlighting paragraph 59. The whole paragraph of 59 gets highlighted. Those who show little respect for hip-hop still spell hip-hop as hip-hop, lowercase. True hip-hoppers are advised to spell hip-hop as well as hip-hop with a capital H, as it is the name of our collective consciousness. It is the force that animates our way of life, our culture, our tribe, our nation. When hip-hop and or hip-hop are spelled as hip-hop, it refers to rap music product and its related activities. We'll go deeper into this later, and that's what I'm going to bring up here as well. Hip-hop or hip-hop, when misspelled as hip-hop, means hip, trendy, hop, jump, or dance. However, we are not just a trendy dance. We love and respect the art of dance, but dancing is not the only thing hip-hop is about. Those who approach hip-hop like it is exclusively a trendy dance or entertainment are usually those who repeatedly speak and spell the term incorrectly and care little for hip-hop as a community of real people. To spell hip-hop incorrectly as hip-hop is to deny our right to exist as a people. The use of the term hip-hop to describe real people reduces those people to products and those who have their gospel. You see the type of hip-hop, lowercase h, lowercase I, lowercase p, dash, lowercase h, lowercase o, lowercase p. This is the hip hop that we're discussing the spelling of right here. This is that disrespectful hip hop. So to spell hip hop incorrectly as hip hop is to deny our right to exist as a people. The use of the term hip hop to describe real people reduces those people to products. However, hip, spelled here with a capital H from the ancient African hippie, means to know or to be aware. It is a form of intelligence, a knowing. On the other hand, hop, spelled here with a capital H from the Aboriginal American Hopi, means good and or peaceable. Together, hippie and Hopi, the original union of cultures in the Americas, can symbolize not only the unity of African and Native American civilizations, but can also symbolize peaceful awareness, good awareness, or the awareness of peace or of goodness. This was the original interpretation of hip and hop, hippie and Hopi, and in terms of culture to culture to culture. We're looking at African hippie, which is the Wolof people, their word hippie for enlightenment, awareness. So we're looking at African culture and we're looking at Native American Hopi culture. Shout out to Red Cloud. Big up to Red Cloud if you're listening to us right now. Friend of the temple from early days when we was in California. Red Cloud and the Hopi Nation helped us to write this right here, no doubt. So shout out to Red Cloud and the whole Hopi Nation out there. But we arrived at this on a higher level of understanding each other's nations and why we are here, how we got here, and so on. But now the highlight. You're highlighting 64. We're highlighting 64, and we're highlighting the whole paragraph of 64. Let's read it. However, according to the English language, to be hip means to have knowledge of. Again, it is a form of intelligence. Hop is a form of movement. And together, hip and hop, when spelled correctly as hip hop, means moving or jumping intelligence, even knowledgeable movement. Hip, hop, moving intelligence, active intelligence, intelligence moving, conscious movement, or intelligent movement. You've heard me say this 100 times as well, that hip means to know, hop is the movement, hip is the enlightenment, hop is the springing up of that enlightenment. This is the literal interpretation of what the words hip hop actually mean. The etymology of the term hip hop, as it relates to the English language, begins with the old English term, hype. That's funny. That comes in, meaning the joint formed by the upper thigh bone and pelvis. Additionally, the term hype bands appears around 1149, meaning hip bones. This is the joint used the most in our breaking moves and most urban dance moves. I just stuck that in too, by the way, just so y'all know that. But I'm going through the etymology of the word hip. In addition to the term hip being interpreted as part of the skeletal structure of the human body, we hop out of the hips. Hip is also the seed pod of a rose bush. Hype, H-I-P-E, hype, 1440 when it comes into play. And is also interpreted as to be informed or to be up to date. And that, of course, comes from 1903. Later, 1952, the term hippie was designated to a specific group of people, hipsters, that were considered hip, meaning keenly aware of what is new and in style. In many ways, hip hop is a continuation of the hippie movement of the 1960s. Being also politically aware, the hippie preferred to turn on to legal and illegal drugs, tune in to peace and sexual promiscuity, and drop out from conventional society, wearing unconventional clothes, sporting long and sometimes uncombed hair, preaching peace and universal love for all humankind. This was called the hippies back in the days. Or that group was called the hippies. Hippies were at the center of the civil rights, gay and lesbian rights, women's rights, free love, and anti-war movements of the 1960s. And hip hop is a direct effect of this earlier freedom movement. However, we've seen now the errors of the hippie movement, and it is our responsibility today to go beyond such tragic events. Drug overdoses, murders, and lawlessness simply do not work toward our goals for freedom. And you can see we're still suffering from this today. Spontaneity is good, but continuous spontaneity doesn't offer stability. We have seen now that when there is no permanence, there is no reliability. The hippie movement seems to have been killed by media hype, drug abuse, and drug abuse. Many other hippies just burnt out or became part of the same government and corporate structure they were fighting against. Hip hop can learn a lot from this early protest movement. Hop, on the other hand, appears in the English language as hopping sometime before 1200, meaning to spring or to move by springing, usually upon one foot. This term hopping seems to come from the Old English hoppien, about 1000 AD, comes into English language as hoppien, about 1000 AD, meaning to spring or to dance. This term corresponds with the Old Icelandic hoppa, the modern Dutch hoppin, the German hopfen, all meaning to hop or to spring. Like the term hip, the term hop is also associated with plant life. Hop is interpreted as a vine having flower clusters. 1439 is its etymology. The hop plant was and still is used to flavor malt drinks like beer, something that the hip hop community is very familiar with. These are the English etymologies of the term hip hop. And we can see here within these definitions how even hip and hop come together to mean hip, informed, and hop, springing or dancing. Together, the term hip hop, even when spelled in lowercase h, can mean an informed springing or an up-to-date modern dance or an informed movement upward. A hip, updated hop movement is an intelligent movement, a movement aware of itself. To be hip means to be up-to-date, relevant, in the know. Therefore, to hip something or to make something hip is to modernize it. To hip a hop is to modernize an upward movement. However, it is interesting to point out the correlation of these two terms as they apply to plant life. Both hip and hop refer to plant life. One, hip, refers to the seed pod of a rose bush, and the other, hop, refers to a vine having flower clusters. The relation between seed and then vine within the symbolic interpretations of hip and then hop cannot be ignored. In terms of spiritual symbolism, we focus upon how hip comes before hop, like seed comes before vine. Spiritually, it appears that hip hop is the seed of a new vine, the new people, a new way. However, when you add the etymology of culture to these interpretations, even more symbolism is revealed. The term culture, 1439, from the Latin cultura, meaning tending, care, and cultivation, seems to come from cult, the past participle stem of the Latin colere. And anytime you speak in Latin, the R is rolled. That's how the R sound is supposed to. So it's like colere, roll the R, meaning to till, cultivate, tend to, and inhabit. Cult, the word, comes into English language in 1616, originally meant worship or homage, not to worship or to pay homage. Cult comes from the Latin cultus, meaning cultivation, care, attention, worship. We can see here that the term worship was originally associated with the cultivating, caring for, and attending to of something or someone. Attuned hip hoppers are advised to worship God in this way, to care for God. Slightly different concept. To worship God, the original etymology of the word worship meant to care for something. Anything you caring for, anything you giving attention to, and anything you cultivating You worship it. So to cultivate, care for, give attention to God is the true meaning of worship of God. Worship of God is not praise of God. That's a different thing. Praise is a different thing. But worship is to care for God, to care for your ancestors, worship your ancestors. Ancestor worship is not getting on your knees and praising a picture of your ancestors. It's a care for them. Leave some food out. Maybe continue their goals. Maybe exemplify their character through your character. Care about, give attention to, cultivate, bring up. That's worship. For as we belong to God, God equally belongs to us. God is to be worshiped, meaning cultivated and cared for, not just acknowledged in thanks. For when we hear that they fell down and worshiped him or her, we must understand that in ancient times to worship a person or God meant that they took care of that person or God. Know this, God is to be cared for and cultivated, not just thanked. Let us continue with the word culture. The suffix U-R-E, in culture forms abstract nouns of action or the means or result of action. To is to ing, ed, or s. And so you got to have your gospel so you could see this. And I'm not bringing it up on the screen. This particular lesson is not up on the screen. So this is what you say, you got to get your gospel of hip hop. If you don't have a copy, get one for this point right here. To is to ing, which is ing, ed, which is ed, or s, which is s. Like the act of fail-ing equals fail-er or failure. The condition of being pleased with the ed equals please-er, pleasure or pleasure. Something or someone that legislates equals a legislator or legislator. So to is to ing, ed, or s. Therefore, by adding the to cult, we get cult-er or culture, originally meaning the act of culting or cultivating, caring, attending to, worshiping. Looking at the etymology of hip and hop and culture together, we can interpret such a phrase as meaning the cultivation, care, attention, and worship of the seed, plan, vision of the new vine, people, way. Another interpretation of hip hop culture, and look at the spelling of it. Another interpretation of hip hop culture could read the cultivation, care, attention, and worship of the intelligent movement. The term hip-hop culture seems to imply the cultivation of and care for the upward springing of intelligence, even as lowercase letters. There seems to be a symbolic connection to farming when it comes to the etymology of the words hip, hop, and culture, as defined within the English language. Symbolically, we seem to be growing an ancient intelligence with an ancient meaning and purpose. This is important to meditate upon because ancient humans watched animal behavior to understand and develop human behavior. And they observed flowers and plants, their colors, shapes, and functions to discover what was possible in nature and within themselves, within ourselves. Nature taught early humans through the symbolisms produced by nature's activities. This is the first way we used to learn, through the symbols of nature. The activity of fire taught us about the nature of our emotions. The activity of water taught us about character. The activity of air and wind taught us about the nature of the spirit, nature of spirit and the invisible. The activity of the life-giving earth, the very ground itself, farming, taught us how to survive and revealed to us the nature and cycles of the universe and the effects of its celestial bodies, stars, the sun, moon, etc., upon life on earth. Truly, nature itself is our teacher and provider. However, plants are the first of our direct teachers. The ingestion of certain medicinal plants showed us all kinds of sciences and revealed to us the mysteries of the earth and of the universe itself. Indeed, the first knowledge was delivered through play and the ingestion of certain plant types, which then revealed the symbolism of nature itself. Symbolism and metaphor are indeed important elements in the building of human understanding and awareness. As poet Robert Frost, very famous poet, Robert Frost suggested, quote, "If you are not properly educated in metaphor, you are not safe to be loose in the world," end quote. We hip-hoppers are the genetic return of an ancient people, for it is known by all true seekers of truth that nature produces knowledge through symbolism, comparison, and metaphor. It appears that we hip-hoppers are responsible for the gathering of symbolic information on this planet and then teaching it to others through art for the guidance and the relief of human suffering. By opposing hip-hoppers, you stagnate the gathering and distribution of symbolic knowledge and thus stagnate the progress of human understanding. Finally, within the etymology of hip-hop, we come to the hip-hopper or hip-hopper. Looking at the Old Icelandic term hoppa, meaning to spring upward, it becomes obvious that the way in which the Temple of Hip-Hop describes and spells hip-hopper is influenced by the two terms hip and hopper. The term hip, meaning keenly aware of what is new and in style, and hopper, meaning to spring upward or to hop, reveals the hip-hopper as the actual intelligence that is springing forward. The hip-hopper can also be said to be a modernized life dancer, keenly aware of what is new and in style, a conscious mover, or one who moves with awareness. And know this, what we have done in our early days as hip-hoppers, how we have defined ourselves and how we have expressed ourselves in the material world was done spontaneously, spiritually. We were calling ourselves hip-hoppers and hip-hoppers long before the definitions, and interpretations of this gospel. It is truly amazing to discover our real natures and characters as hip-hoppers, even the term hip-hopper already existing within the very structure of the English language itself as us. Meditate upon this fact. And that's what's important here, the spontaneity of it. And let me show you the scholarship, the style of scholarship with the gospel of hip hop. This is a balanced argument. So at times you're going to hear contradiction, or what others will call contradiction. We call it balance, meaning that here we're talking about, and I'm not really getting into it, but I'm using this to make this point, that we're talking about spontaneously, that the spirit works spontaneously. Okay, and the mind needs a plan. And so we was talking earlier about the hippie movement, moving spontaneously. They're moving with the soul, they're moving with the spirit, but it didn't help them because there was no reliability. They couldn't repeat what they were doing. It burnt out and went on. It didn't get transferred. Some people try to keep the movement going, but it wasn't as big as it was in the 60s. Hip hop can learn a lot from this in terms of what we're going to look like in the future and so on if we don't get our act together today. And so the spontaneity in one breath is not a good thing. On another breath, in the spirit world, it is. And we're going to read that. You're going to see why. Spontaneity does work on another level. But in this other context, no, spontaneity doesn't work. Reliability works. Stability works. Security works. But the other side to this is that, no, in the spirit, there comes a time when insecurity, instability, and unreliability is what's actually working. It's freeing you and allowing you to see other opportunities. Interesting lesson. I just wanted to point that out. So we are continuing. Let me read 59 one more time. And know this, What we have done in our early days as hip hoppers, how we have defined ourselves and how we have expressed ourselves in the material world was done spontaneously, spiritually. We were calling ourselves hip hoppers and hip hoppers long before the definitions, interpretations of this gospel. It is truly amazing to discover our real natures and characters as hip hoppers, even the term hip hopper already existing within the very structure of the English language itself as us. Meditate upon this fact. If we were a community of doctors or lawyers or architects or even politicians, then the idea that hip hop can be defined as a trendy dance or as an intelligent movement would not apply to us. It would not mean much. But the very fact that these terms, hip and hop and culture, and even hip hopper, which we spontaneously gave to ourselves in childhood play within a so-called slang dialect, intuitively corresponding to the etymology of these words and terms, only proves once again the depth into which the hip-hop mind can go if left to its own development. In the 1970s, we did not define ourselves in this way. We did not have this knowledge. However, the fact that we can accurately identify ourselves and our specific artistic expressions, like dance, for example, within ancient English, Latin, African, German, Dutch, and French languages, and that the etymology of these words and terms matches accurately with our modern self-expression, even though we've never formally studied these words and terms, to know them says something about our divine role as hip-hop. We are truly the return of an ancient people with ancient skills rooted in the earliest experiences of human consciousness. All that we need to know is ourselves. We simply need to be left alone to contemplate the depths of our own consciousness. We truly have something important and forgotten to teach and remind the world. All we have to do is believe in ourselves. As hip hoppers, we operate in a spiritual reality when we handle and manipulate hip hop. The fact that we create ourselves points to our divinity. The fact that we spontaneously and randomly choose names and characters for ourselves that can be matched with a history and knowledge that we have not studied proves that we as a community are not just singing, rapping, and dancing. There seems to be more to hip hop than our ability to sing and dance. We are connected to something divine and timeless. The fact that we created hip hop first and then the explanation as to how our creation came about later proves that we are working with spiritual energy, awareness, and law. The opposite is the way of the world. That is to plan and explain your plan of action before you act or create. Spiritual law works differently. The creation is created first, and then the explanation as to how it was created comes later. And usually when natural and spiritual events are later explained, they align with the mathematics and harmony of nature and the universe itself. However, this is usually discovered years later by future generations equipped with better instruments and a broader knowledge. This is why the Great Pyramids of Egypt are so mathematically in alignment with the earth and the universe. Those ancient builders were simply not an oppressed people. They were truly their natural selves with no restrictions. They simply did not know what they couldn't do. And so they did it all. Through play, art, and experimentation, great things are accomplished unconsciously and with little or no effort at all. We will explore this theme more later. For now, let's get back to hip hop and the English language. It is also a common linguistic rule of English language that the titles or names of all cultures, nations, civilizations, ethnicities, etc. be spelled beginning with a capital uppercase letter. Hip hop is our culture. Therefore, it must be always spelled with the same grammatical respect one would give any other culture in the English language. In addition, the term hip hop can be interpreted as a proper noun, as a specific thing. Unless the term hip hop is being, and let me stop here for a minute, I'm sorry. 98 is highlight, the whole paragraph. Paragraph 98 is highlight. Let me start it again. In addition, the term hip hop can be interpreted as a proper noun, as a specific thing. Unless the term hip hop is being displayed in an art presentation, or if translated into another language or culture where the grammatical rules of the English language do not apply, hip hop should be spelled beginning with a capital H, lowercase I, P, H, O, P, one word, or capital H, lowercase I, P, space, capital H, lowercase O, P. That's the end of the highlight. Those using the English language to describe hip hop while misspelling hip hop and or hip hop as hip hop, and I'll get ready to bring that up on the screen, are not only grammatically incorrect, they also undermine the importance of what hip hop really is to hip hoppers. They participate in hip hop's enslavement by reducing our culture and way of life to a music genre and product to be bought and sold. Again, hip hop is the name of our collective consciousness. Hip hop is not a product to be bought and sold. And of course, it says, see Hip Hop Declaration of Peace Principle 7. It is the inalienable right of all hip hoppers. Hip hop is our name. Hip hop, spelled here with two uppercase H's, is also called the phonetic spelling of hip hop. It is also the traditional and general spelling of hip hop. This spelling is politically correct. Again, it means moving or active intelligence. When used to describe us as a people, hip hop can mean the awareness of peace. True hip hop scholars are advised to use this spelling, hip hop, when educating the public on how to correctly pronounce hip hop. That's hip hop with one, spelled as one word. Writers who have spelled hip hop in lowercase, hip hop and hip hop, before the publishing of the gospel of hip hop are excused from criticism and or retaliation. However, now that the gospel of hip hop is published, writers are advised to approach hip hop as the nation that it is with the importance that it deserves. Hip hop spelled in this way is also used in titles, introductions, invitations, and artwork, or when hip hop is being explained in a general or historic sense. Failure to comply with this style undermines hip hop's effort to develop, unify, and strengthen itself. Those who continue to spell hip hop in lowercase hip hop when describing hip hop place themselves outside of our community and cannot be called true scholars of the hip hop arts and sciences. Let us take a look now at these terms again. I want to read this to you one more time. Now, I'm looking here at my screen, and I can barely see what it is I have up here. I'm thinking I should turn the light down again. I never turned it down from before.
Yeah, try to turn the light down. Is my mic on?
Yes, it is.
Oh, yeah. or maybe even turn it off. Make it easier.
Oh.
Nope.
No, turn it back up. Actually, I need it up. Yeah, turn it up full blast, maybe. No, my screen is too bright. So look, I'll just put it up and I'll read it. It is here. Even though hip hop is not thought of as a person, a place, or a physical thing, we'll probably go over this again since you can't read it. It's also here in the gospel. Even though hip hop is not thought of as a person, a place, or a physical thing, it is still the name of our culture and community. Because of this, hip hop can be interpreted as a proper noun, as a specific thing. Hip hop is unique in the world. It is its own thing. We can all see that when people hear the term hip hop, they don't think of other things or people. They think of us, good or bad, happy or sad, liked or disliked, loved or hated. They think of us, rappers, breakdancers, and graffiti writers. This makes hip hop a specific thing in the world and the name of our specific culture. Now, this is hip hop. This is the spelling that is correct. This is the correct spelling of our culture. Those that have access to literary institutions, sort of like like the New York Times, for instance. The New York Times is known for making grammatical or literary changes like this. We'd like to appeal to the New York Times to discontinue spelling hip hop in lowercase h and spell hip hop like this in uppercase h's, because it is the name of our community. It's the name of our culture. When you look at all the dictionaries, we are culture, subculture, national culture, you know, so give us the respect of spelling our name with a capital H. What I want to get into here is called the three natures of hip hop, and you see them here within the gospel of hip hop. I'm going to bring them up, but I want to read them from the gospel of hip hop. It's two definitions. So, and they are the same. It's just these, like, take a look at this. This is, well, actually, right. You can't even see it really. You can see a little bit of it. But as you can see, hip hop, the name of our unique collective consciousness. Okay, the name of our unique. No, I'm fine with that. Okay. The name of our unique collective consciousness, hip hop. Let me also bring this up. Hip hop, the name of our culture and lifestyle. Notice the spellings on this. Okay, these are the three natures of hip hop. This is the functionality of hip hop. Is how we've been approaching hip hop. Here now, the last one, hip hop in lowercase, is rap music and rap related entertainment. So take a look at that real quick. I'll move over to the side. You can barely see it, but take a look at it. Now, those that have the gospel of hip hop, follow me now on page 80. This is the first one here, hip hop. Hip hop, our unique spirit, our unique collective consciousness, the creative force behind hip hop's elements. Oh, let me also say this, that these three hip hops are to be highlighted. This is a highlight right here. Just these three hip hops. Hip hop, our unique spirit, our unique collective consciousness, the creative force behind hip hop's elements. Hip hop is the name of our lifestyle and collective consciousness. That's this hip hop. Second, hip hop. Hip hop, the creation and development of breaking, MCing, graffiti art, DJing, beatboxing, street fashion, street language, street knowledge, and street entrepreneurialism. It is what we call ourselves and our activity in the world. Hip hop is the name of our culture. That's the name of our culture. Hip hop in lowercase. This is this hip hop. Hip hop, rap music product, and those things and events associated with rap music entertainment. Hip hop is a music genre. So whenever you're spelling hip hop, you're talking about the music genre, you're talking about rap music, you use the lowercase. If you're talking about hip hop as culture, you use this spelling. If you're talking about the collective consciousness, you use this spelling. Take a look at that real quick. It's in the gospel of hip hop. I will continue reading with this up. I'm going to leave this up. We'll continue reading. Hip hop culture is the name of our unique community of consciousness. Hip hop, and look at the spellings as well. Hip hop is the name of our collective consciousness, and hip hop's culture is the manifested character, patterns, beliefs, and arts of our collective consciousness as hip hoppers. We are a very real community of specialized people. Those that live the principles of our culture are called hip hoppers and not hip hoppers. Now, of course, Oxford English spells us like that, hip hoppers with an ER. We spell hip hoppers the way it come out of our mouth as one word with an A. Hip hopper. Hip hopper is one word. Hip hopper, not hip hopper. We don't speak like that. But in Oxford English, they have it. And we accept it because at least they recognize our existence. Called hip hoppers and not hip hoppers because to live hip hop is to think hip hop. To live hip hop is to think hip hop. A hip hopper is the manifestation of hip hop. Technically, a hip hopper is hip hop and performs or presents hip hop, which is then sold, hip hop, which is then sold as hip hop. And get that, a hip hopper, technically, a hip hopper is hip hop and performs or presents hip hop, which is then sold as hip hop. Or you can say hip hop spirit creates the hip hopper mind, which creates hip hop body, which creates hip hop product. Hip hop is born of God, the great spirit, the great event. It is the light of the world. Hip hop is born of cultural syncretism, meaning the blending of different cultures to create a new culture. It is the combination and unity of several independent cultures, creating a new heterogeneous culture. And finally, hip hop is born of corporate business interests. It exists when the effects of hip hop and hip hop become tradable material products. As a title, true hip hop is spelled the full name of our culture with a K, signifying our cultural uniqueness and right to define ourselves, hip hop culture. Hip hop culture can also be spelled as hip hop culture in certain specific writings, artwork, and or advertisements. Even beyond the right to define ourselves, hip hop culture is the creation of our hip hop atmosphere, our hip hop environment, our hip hop climate, our hip hop reality. The principles of our hip hop culture are the paradigm that we create ourselves with and interpret the world through. As a city-state, hip-hop culture is the place where hip-hoppers can achieve their true life purposes in peace, with no hostile beefs between hip-hoppers and with no interference from anyone unless such a purpose interferes with other hip-hoppers seeking the fulfillment of their life purposes. Our hip-hop city is where there is no economic high class that manipulates and or forces an economic low class to work for it, where no person is above another person, where the public education of our children helps them to know and fulfill the potentials of their natural talents, where the life purpose of all men and women is nurtured and fully respected. That is a highlight. This is highlight the whole 110. Get the whole 110. I'm continuing on. Hip hop culture, as a matter of fact, you know what? Let me get a pen real quick. I just need to get a pen for my own self. I thought I had one up here. Guess I don't. Thank you. Let's do that. Yeah, I just want to highlight this 110, the whole thing, because that also explains the mission of the city. You know, and that's what we're highlighting. We're highlighting explanations. So this is a very important explanation. As a city state, what's the intent of hip hop culture? Well, here it is. Moving on, hip hop culture, the city state, is a place where the elements of hip hop can be further developed, mastered by hip hoppers in peace, leading to our lasting prosperity. As opposed to a president, a king, or a warrior, hip hop culture as a nation is guided by its teachers who lead by productive example. Go ahead and highlight that too. Highlight 110 and 111. These are explanations that all scholars should know, hip hop scholars should know. I'm gonna read this last part again. As opposed to a president, a king, or a warrior, hip hop culture as a nation is guided by its teachers. And notice there's an S on the end of that. Teachers who lead by productive examples. Highlight that whole 111. Continuing. Hip hop culture is an international tribe of peace and prosperity whose unique worldview expresses certain arts and opinions that unite people around some simple yet common principles shared all over the earth, regardless of racial, cultural, financial, or religious background. Our culture is all about peace, love, unity, and safely having fun. Here, hip-hop is the common ground that all people can meet upon. Hip-hop itself is the world's common spirit, the true world order. In our culture, It is the accumulation of knowledge that reigns supreme, not the accumulation of money, property, weapons, tools, food, or clothing. These are the effects of knowledge. And as useful as these things are, they are still not valued above wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. Our civilization is based upon advanced human interactions, not advanced human accumulation or even annihilation. Again, our community is all about peace, love, unity, and safely having fun. This vision is what is common to most of the peoples of the earth. And this is why hip hop appeals to most of the earth's people. We speak a universal language. We seek the deeper meanings of hip hop beyond entertainment, and we are inspired by our discoveries symbolically as well as literally. Just want to get this here. Yeah. Symbolically and as well as literally. And you'll notice that this whole first piece, this whole reading here, you'll notice what is called real hip hop is actually dealing with the symbolism of hip hop in a literal sense. This is just something to know over this whole thing. We've been dealing with symbolism, what things mean, and nature, and these kinds of things. Just know that the theme of this particular reading. We seek a deeper meaning of hip hop beyond entertainment, and we are inspired by our discoveries symbolically as well as literally. For example, hip hop can be seen as H2IP P2 H2O1 O1 P2, or hydrogen, iodine, phosphorus, hydrogen, oxygen, phosphorus. Such chemical elements create a variety of useful substances, some of which are indeed life-sustaining. Symbolically, HIPHOP is chemically made up of 2 hydrogen atoms and 1 oxygen atom, which produces water, a necessary element for the creation and sustainment of life in its physical form. Iodine not only kills unwanted bacteria, but hydrogen, iodine, and phosphorus, HIP, are essential minerals used to restore vitality to the physical body. Hydrogen, oxygen, and phosphorus are 3 types, are 3 of the 9 macronutrients essential for plant growth. Again, the reference to plant life. Hydrogen, oxygen, and phosphorus, HOP, properly combined, produce phosphoric acid, which is commonly used to make soil-enriching fertilizer. In essence, HIPHOP in its chemical interpretation is a life-giving, life-sustaining, life-enhancing compound, one that we already have within us. And this interpretation symbolically is what our culture represents to the world. Even further, looking at H as an individual symbol and not just as a letter sheds more light upon the deeper meanings of hip hop and its existence in the world. In many metaphysical circles, H symbolizes twin pillars: justice, mercy, the gate to heaven, and the ladder, like a ladder going up. H, as a symbol, is made from the union of 2 eyes. H itself is a symbol for unity and togetherness, 2 eyes coming together, 2 individuals coming together. H is truly a symbol for the preservation of our community. Hip hop can also represent the breath or the act of breathing. Hip, inhale, hop, exhale. Inhale, exhale. With every breath, attuned hip hoppers confirm their hip hop existences. We are not just breathing, we are inhaling and exhaling our collective hip hop consciousness. With every breath, we are confirming the existence of our hip hop culture and community. Therefore, hip hop culture, the name of our community, when misspelled, where culture does not begin with a K, but instead is spelled as culture with a C, hip hop culture, for reference to it, refers to the condition of hip-hop's development as music. It does not relate to the mature community of responsible and unified hip-hoppers, the hip-hop city-state, or the hip-hop nation. Here's a highlight 123, the whole paragraph. To become a citizen of hip-hop culture, one must be willing to adopt and defend the Hip-Hop Declaration of Peace and begin the study and mastery of one or more of hip-hop's 9 elements. That's a citizen of the culture. To be a hip-hop citizen, one must simply be loyal to the preservation of hip-hop's principles, elements, lifestyle above all else. One must be willing to direct the productive effects of hip-hop's principles, elements, and lifestyle back toward the advancement of hip-hop culture above all else. However, the most important factor in hip-hop citizenry is hip-hop's own internal unity and collective maturity. As we have all learned now, our increased freedom, peace, prosperity, and defense are all linked to our own level of unity. Those of us who continue to ignore the importance of unity above all else are the very people holding us back. Hip-hop must remain united. Otherwise, with our own hands, we defeat ourselves, and we should stop complaining about the actions of those who are unified against our interests. We, the international community, the international hip-hop community, are not criminals. We do not support crime and lawlessness, even from our own countries and governments. But if we are to truly enjoy higher states of freedom, peace, and prosperity, we must conduct ourselves in manners that surpass the current state of world affairs. Here's another highlight. 127 is a highlight. 127, paragraph 127 is a highlight. Where there is injustice, we must remain just. Where there is corruption, we must remain honest. And where there is disunity, we must remain unified. The truth is, our freedom, peace, and prosperity are based solely upon how we decide to govern ourselves. Did you hear that? Did you really hear that piece right there? Let me hit you with it one more time. Where there is injustice, we must remain just. Where there is corruption, we must remain honest. And where there is disunity, we must remain unified. This is the character. This is the character of the attuned hip hop. This is the character that got me through the last 33 years, to be honest with you. Where there is injustice, be just. Where there is corruption, be honest. And where there is, and fair as well. And where there is disunity, be unified. The truth is, our freedom, peace, and prosperity are based solely upon how we decide to govern ourselves. We can talk, complain, protest, and rally all day about the injustices of oppressive government agencies, the police, and insensitive corporate business practices. But if we are unwilling or incapable of governing ourselves, then the natural result of such inability is oppression and cops getting away with murder. The point is unity, as our parents chanted during the rise of the civil rights movement. The people united can never be defeated. The people united could never be defeated. That was the chant.
I was about to join you real quick. I just wanted to say, I think 124 should be highlighted with 123.
Go ahead and do that.
Because it continues on the explanation.
It does. It can be. Go ahead and do that. It is a continuation. The salient meaning, though, is at 123.
No doubt. Sorry for the interruption, my G.
And you know what, though? But wait a minute. This last line here is very important of 124. However, the most important factor in hip-hop citizenry is hip-hop's own internal unity and collective maturity. Very important line.
No doubt.
Very important line. Go ahead and highlight 23 and 24. Go ahead and highlight 127. The people united can never be defeated. We believe that every human being has a duty and a right to govern themselves, and the way in which one governs oneself begins the structure as to how whole communities govern themselves. Before we can even think about the governing of our hip hop nation, we must first consider the governing of our own homes, our own businesses, our own lives. That could be highlighted, but we're not highlighting that. That's not part of a test, but it's very important what's being said here. Before we can even think about governing our hip hop nation, we must first consider the governing of our own homes, our own businesses, and our own lives. The decision to ignore this duty or seek to prevent hip hoppers and others from exercising this duty is oppression. Whether self-imposed or induced in some way by outside forces, those who deny us and others the right to govern ourselves and live as we believe is best for our development and are our oppressors, and history shows that the universe itself will remove such oppression from its path toward increased order and independence. There's that word again. Know this: restriction of thought, action, expression, and or speech is oppression, even if one does it to oneself. On the other hand, freedom of thought, action, expression, and speech is self-governance, even if one is ignorant of the effects of one's own thoughts, actions, expressions, and speech. Either way, it is your own self-expressed thoughts, actions, and words that shape and directly affect the circumstances of your physical life. Sometimes to leave the ignorant to themselves is to equally oppress them, as if you kept them in chains and in prison. Allowing the ignorant to remain ignorant actually destroys the ignorant and the community the ignorant rely upon. Imagine that. It's a harsh statement too. You know, I don't run around calling people ignorant, but ignorance means you don't know. And, you know, we're all ignorant of something. In this instance, we're talking about those who are ignorant of life, ignorant of culture, ignorant of the importance of community, ignorant of unity, ignorant of what BET and MTV and what these people are doing to our culture, ignorant of it. Our work, therefore, is to lift hip hop out of ignorance and onward toward increased knowledge. Our work is to inspire the hip hop community to be a community through a unified understanding of its own existence beyond entertainment. This is 133 is a highlight, but I'm gonna finish reading. I'm gonna read it again. Our work is about building and maintaining a sustainable hip hop culture and protecting our people from themselves first, and then from the non-productive forces that tempt us to our own demise. In short, we are cultivating an authentic hip hop citizenry. Go ahead and highlight the entire 133. I'm gonna read it one more time, because remember, most of what we're highlighting is instruction. Stuff that if you as a scholar is asked, well, what is the temple of hip hop? You have instruction. What is hip hop? You have instruction. What is the gospel of hip hop? You have instruction. What is hip hop declaration of peace? You have instruction. You should never be lost for words when it comes to your own culture. As a scholar, you should be able to articulate your culture on all levels. And that's what this study is about. That's what we're highlighting. We're coming up on the end now with this. We're coming up on page 87. I'm going to read up until paragraph 138. We're going to stop there. Here we are at 133. Highlight 133. Our work, therefore, is to lift hip hop out of ignorance and onward toward increased knowledge. Our work is to inspire the hip hop community to be a community through a unified understanding of its own existence beyond entertainment. Our work is about building and maintaining a sustainable hip hop culture and protecting our people from themselves first, and then from the non-productive forces that tempt us to our own demise. In short, we are cultivating an authentic hip-hop citizenry. This is what it's always been about since the Stop the Violence movement in '89. Here, loyalty implies a strict adherence to the principles of our culture. This is the center of unity for any group or community. But when one consciously and deliberately breaks the principles of one's community, one is engaged in the act of destroying one's community and even oneself. That's just basic, like, you know, and I say that because you see people get on TV and make videos and other things, and they say, we're doing this for the culture. And then when you see the performance, it has nothing to do with the progression of the culture. It's just about, again, that same old mainstream sensationalist thing. But they put culture on it and say, well, we're doing it for the culture. I love my culture. Yo, we got to respect the culture. And then everything you about degrades the culture, destroys the culture. We can now see that a community's defeat and collapse is almost always brought on by the disunity, disrespect, and disobedience of its own people. It is always a snitch or a betrayer of the cause that hands victory over to the enemy. It is always one's disloyalty to the principles of the group and to its leadership that destroys the group from within and hands victory over to that group's enemy. This fact simply cannot be avoided. Infighting is another cause for the destruction of any group. Our community cannot and must not betray itself in this way. Betrayal is not always the act of giving up the secrets and or plans of the group. Giving away or selling the group's resources for one's own gain is another cause for group destruction from outside forces. However, infighting or fighting amongst ourselves is the number one cause of any group's defeat. And that's also historic. Unity is the key. Not only must we never sell our elements and expressions to interests that go against our own existence, we must equally not wage war with ourselves. We must find the strength and the courage within ourselves to resolve our conflicts peacefully and without violence. This is what it means to be loyal to hip hop. Last line, and this is the last line right here, paragraph 38. Loyalty to hip hop also means the protection of our own artistic and cultural elements. This is the beginning of independence and self-governance for hip hop. We are financed by our cultural elements. These are our intellectual property. If we are to become and remain politically and socially strong, we cannot continue to give our intellectual property, our elements, away to those who care little for our continued development and well-being as a people. This is going to conclude this reading for this week. I'm stopping here at paragraph 38. We'll continue next week at paragraph 139. But what I'm bringing you here, the gist of this, Lisa, let me start from this last part. We're talking about loyalty to the citizenry, loyalty to the citizenship of hip hop. Can you really see this as your nation, as your culture? You know, besides what you can get from it, what are you giving to it? So this is hip hop. And this is the way in which we approach it at the Temple of Hip Hop. This lesson coincides with the day. It's July 4th, it's Independence. It's July 4th, it's Independence Day. So we're discussing independence, and we're discussing how independent our own thinking is as an independent nation. What does independence really mean? It means you ain't relying on everybody. And that's philosophical, that's not philosophical, that's poetic. You know, nations, an independent nation. We went through that. That's poetic because all nations are relying on other nations and its own people. We are all relying on each other. One thing break down, a whole lot of things break down. We saw that with COVID. When everything else got broke down, unrelated industries fell apart because an unrelated industry fell apart. So we're all connected and we're all together. We all know this. So keep this lesson in mind. Today with Independence Day, no one is independent, really. We are all dependent. We are all depending on each other. Now, of course, we say independent because we want to be independent thinkers. We want to have our own money. We want to have our own knowledge. We want to have our own house, our own car. You know, mama may have, papa may have, but God bless the child that got his own, that got his own. That, okay, we respect that. We know what that is. Try to be as independent as you possibly can. Try not to be so dependent on other people. Try not be so dependent on your job, your school, your family. Try to be independent and stand upright. It is something to aspire to, but understand that in reality, no man is an island. No one stands alone. We are all together. And this is what it is. So this is KRS-ONE again, and I am going to sign off because I'm going to run right now. I have another engagement to deal with on this July 4th. Our teaching continues. But son one, I'm actually concluding here with our lesson. You usually close us out with closing remarks. I want to thank everybody for listening as well and staying with us. And I mean staying with us for the whole time, for like the last year, in that sense. Thank you for that. Those that are tuned into this, you obviously are serious about what we're discussing, about hip hop and so on. And now that everything's opening up, I'm gonna be able to make some of those house calls as well. Come by your neighborhood, come by your crib, do it up big right there. And I didn't mention that too at the beginning of our talk. Some people did invite me to their houses, and I will be there. Let me say that as well. This is how this type of knowledge is taught. It ain't about a million people. It ain't about all this hoopla and hype and boom bust, as Frederick Douglass would say. It's not about all that. It's about getting the knowledge out to the right people. I'd rather sell 100 records to the right. I'd rather talk to, I'd rather talk to 62 people than to 62 of the right people than a million of the wrong people. Imagine talking to 100,000 wrong people. That's ridiculous. I'd rather speak to 40 real people. I'd rather speak to 20 real people than speak to 100,000 who ain't gonna do nothing and just gonna look at the screen and that's gonna be that. We don't really want that. And so I thank you guys. Every week you come through, you're listening, you're learning, and we're building the unity of our culture through unity of thought. Son one, take us out. I'm out of here. Me and G Simone, we bid all of you a good night.
No doubt. Peace and much love to you, teacher. Thank you again for the teaching and for the insights and the highlights. It's definitely dope. I can see how it's really aligning itself up. And it's funny because what I'm also seeing is I know we talked about a Temple of Hip Hop handbook, really for temple members' conducts. And a lot of that is within here too. From what I'm seeing are certain parts that definitely need to be taken and put into that handbook so that we remember really what it is and what the goal is. And the last part that you read, talking about what happens or how most nations fall or organizations fall, both really, that this is really what we're trying to avoid. And that's why it is specific that no, we know exactly who's here. Because it's not going to be just enough to memorize these highlights, but a lot is going to have to do with your actual conduct. Sure, the memorization of it can get you in the door, but we really want to, or we're going to see who you really are. So I just want to put that disclaimer on it, that in this time, because this is going to take a decent amount of time to get through this, continue to work on yourself. Continue to mold yourself into the person that you perceive in your mind. Hopefully a good person, and hopefully that's what you're doing. But to me, I think people tend to stop at certain points, and they just or they feel like they've got it, and
they don't.
Right. Right.
They don't.
Well, to me, the way I really see it is, if I'm looking at me and I think I'm pretty good, but I know I have things to work on, and I know I'm still creating myself. So when it makes it very weird when you see somebody who's just like, nope, this is it, and I don't need no work like that.
Ignorance is bold and certain.
Word.
And how many times have we seen dudes step up? Yeah, this is what it is, and this is what it is. Totally ignorant. Don't know nothing. Then 2 weeks later, we find out, but he done took 100 people with him.
Yeah.
You know, the wise man or woman knows that they don't know. Okay. And so, you know, if you've read enough books as we have read, you get, like, after the 100th book, you realize that you're never gonna know. You're never gonna know. You read 1,000 books, and then book 1001 shatters you. Yeah. It says, no, you're never gonna know. The wise man always knows that he doesn't know. It's the fool that thinks he knows. And this is part of what you're alluding to is as well, that, you know, the arrogance of the ignorance, you know, the arrogance of the ignorance. And this is the point, is that we're not running around, you know, saying that we're ignorant or this, that, and that, but we know that there are certain things we don't know. So you humble yourself and say, either let me find out, let me humble myself before the dude that do know, let me, you know, but no, people are more interested in their emotions. They're more interested in how they feel. And that feeling puffs them up and says, no, I know. And then, you know, like you in the church, and you like, Jesus is with me. I got Jesus. I know. Then you walk right outside and somebody cuts you off in the parking lot, and you like, motherfucker. You know, so it's like, you know, you get on that highway. I don't know how many Christians on the highway, but it's I don't know how many Jews. I don't know how many spiritual Hindus. I don't know how many Bhagavad Gita yoga people driving around that highway, but ain't nobody on the highway spiritual for some reason. Okay, nobody letting somebody in. Nobody slowing down because you see something going on. Nobody care about baby on board. Remember that little song, right, Baby on Board? People ride down on you harder. They riding down on you harder with baby on board. You know, like, no. So, you know, there is a bit of unpoliteness to this particular lesson. You can't be polite with arrogance. You can't be polite with ignorance. You have to tell arrogance and ignorance exactly who they are, why they are, and where they are. And hopefully our people can see that. And let us all check the arrogance and the ignorance of our own selves.
That's right.
In this moment. And that's how you know you're not arrogant and ignorant. An arrogant person doesn't check himself.
Right.
An ignorant person doesn't seek to know. They think they know. So as long as you seeking to know, you can't be ignorant. And as long as you're willing to humble yourself, and say, look, I got to work on myself. I know you can't be arrogant. So humility with that search for truth, that's the way we rolling right there.
Right. And that's what I'm saying. And we're rooting for everybody who's here with us. Trust and know that, or we want you to be the right 59 so badly. Hip hop is depending on you.
Word.
Hopefully,
man, you need to say that again.
Hopefully, hip hop is depending on you. And actually, you know what? I'm glad you said that, because something that, or as you were reading, I got a little flash of enlightenment that said, or it had something to do with purpose within the reading, but it made me say that if you look at your past, you'll see your purpose of your past, and you'll see what your purpose was. Now, moving forward, you have the ability to manipulate that, so that then when you look back and or you can have somewhat of a say in your purpose, in creating your purpose. And to me, to not pay attention to that is
crazy.
Right.
It's literally insane.
Right. Because at the end of your life, your purpose has been fulfilled, and you can see it in your past of all that you've done. So that's what I'm saying. So create your present, make your present the future purpose that you want to look back on. That's what hit me. And from from real hip hop, that's what got me. It was just like, I don't know, it was real quick. But
no, I don't want to dwell on that, man. But that was a profound revelation. You're taking me back a few years. You and I attended a lecture. Well, I was giving the lecture, and you had attended the lecture in England.
Yes,
and you remember it was a lecture about history. And I was impressing upon the people there. I was saying that today is your history. You're making your history today. Mm-hmm. That 10 years from now, you're going to look back on your moment now, and you're going to define yourself based upon your past actions, your thoughts, what you achieved, what you failed. You're going to judge yourself based on it. So why not give yourself today a powerful history, a powerful, empowering memory? And what is that? Give yourself a memory of charity, a memory of forgiveness, a memory of seeking knowledge, seeking truth, a memory of helping someone else seek truth. Gift giving is a great way a great vitamin in the making of your history. To give gifts. This makes you feel good later on in life. You know you were a giver. You know you were a teacher. You know you were a healer. You know you made somebody else feel like something, more than themselves. So you deliberately give yourself this. You deliberately give yourself this kind of history. Like right now, I am so honored to even be here right now. I'm giving myself this history. When I look back on my history, look back on my young self right now, I'm going to be an old something years from now. We look back on this and say, well, what did you do, Chris, in 2021? What were you doing? I'm going to be like, yo, I was on a call. I was doing this and I was doing that. And then, and look at it. I'm in my 50s now. I look back at my 30s. I look back at my 20s. I look back at my 40s. And I have a lot to be proud of. I have a lot to be proud of. I have a lot to be happy about. That's why I guess I'm not, depressed in a sea of depression. Right. I'm not depressed. I'm not hunched over and whatever it is, whatever you're supposed to be at 50. I'm not it. Okay, it ain't me. Okay, whatever calamity's supposed to hit you at 50, it ain't hitting me. So, and I say that to say not in a bragging sense, but in a sense of I kind of knew this knowledge, that this revelation that you brought up. I knew this at 20, and deliberately put historical markers into my own memory. And I tell you, today at 55, today at 55, I go back in my own memory. I laugh at myself. I can't even look at myself now without a smile on my face. It's what it is. Why? Because I'm trying to live my life according to the principles of God, according to the principles of nature, according to the principles of my ancestors. I'm trying to exemplify the character of my ancestors. And what I realize is that in the present, it may seem crazy to want to hail up Marcus Garvey, to want to shout Dr. King, to want to look at John Lennon or somebody, to want to look at somebody and say, yo, let's look at this person. It may seem crazy in the present, but as them years roll on and you reach back for who you are and you got to prove yourself to yourself. See, young people don't go through things. They got a thing called midlife crisis. Oh. It happens around 45. Right around 45, you start thinking about your life and what did you do and what did it mean, and you start going through everything. And that's what I'm saying. It's like, if you're 20 listening to us, if you're 30 listening to us right now, add great moments to your own memory about yourself. When the holiday season comes around, make it your business to go give out those turkeys to the homeless. Volunteer at a church. It may not seem like anything, but I tell you, all them times I volunteered at the church, the Thanksgiving come around, I don't feel no guilt. I don't feel nothing. I don't feel nothing. Dude, I'm driving down the street, and look, I always try to give money to the people that's out in the street. I ain't got no choice. If they see me, yo, KRS, so I can't drive past you. Here's a 20. Let me get you out of here real quick. But you look at these people, you say, yo, you give money, you give time, I give books, I give my albums out. So now at 55, I'm looking back in my life. I'm like, I ain't got no regrets. I ain't got none of that, all that. And I'm trying to tell the 20 and 30-year-old right now, get on this train. Get on the train where you add to your own memory good things about yourself. It seems so simple, but no one does it. No one does it. We adding drama to every time we go into our memory, somebody did something. Somebody took something. Somebody, and that's another part to this too. See, you got me started now. I gotta leave. Look, this is the other part to it, that people add to themselves, like they add only the bad, they only remember the bad stuff. And so you add only that. And this is the importance of forgiveness. Because if you could forgive and forget, then when you're 50, you don't even remember it. Like, people have done so much harm to me. People have ripped me off. They did all types of stupid stuff, okay? I don't even remember it.
No doubt.
I remember that you did something. I do remember that. But I don't really sit here thinking, oh, yo, dude did this. Remember when dude did that? Yo, remember when? That's harming me. That's harming my memory of myself. I would rather have a memory of me forgetting it. Look what I just said. Right. I would rather have a memory of forgetting that.
Yeah, you're killing your own mood by revisiting that memory.
But that's what people are doing. They remember the harm that was done to them, and it bounces out the good that was done. Nobody remembers the good. The fact that you're even in a house, right. In a place, wherever you are, There's a roof over your head right now. It might not be the roof you want, but it's a roof. And you're not out in the street. There are others who are out in the street with no roof.
Literally.
Okay? So it's better to just think about, yo, I got a roof. It may not be 50 cents roof. It may not be T.I.'s car. But I have a car and I have a roof. And let me be grateful for what I got, because gratefulness is also another one of those memories. When you grateful for what you got and you ain't got to envy and be jealous of nobody else, oh, you sail into your older days because you don't care about nothing. You like, no, I don't need you. I don't need that. I don't need none of this.
Gratefulness also attracts.
Ooh.
Gratefulness attracts. Being, I'm trying to tell y'all what it is because I'm a big receiver.
Gratefulness attracts.
Because I'm grateful. And it's like, no, because Minister Zitaru, he made a good point saying that no, God isn't supposed to be your baby mama or your baby daddy or your sugar daddy or this, that, and the third. No, but I can't help but feel as though God does take pleasure in giving things to those who are grateful for it. Because I just keep getting, and I'm not gonna say, I'm gonna try to say this too many times, but I feel like everybody should know in order to really see what the real benefit is, even though you shouldn't do it just for the benefit, you should do it because it's sincerely in your heart to do it. But, no doubt, but there are real benefits, and God is out here blessing.
Blessing. Big blessings. Big blessings. That's what I say. It's part of the motivation as to why we do what we do, because I can't imagine that my community can't get this knowledge. You can't get this. No, there's no way. Not on my watch. No, we're going to discuss God, and we're going to discuss the principles that go with that term. We're going to look at that experience for real, because it works. And like you said, blessings are all around. And the thing is that it's not just us. Those who walk this path, there are millions of books written, thousands of DVDs, all types of places you could go, and people who are even on this call right now experiencing miracle after miracle after miracle. You confirming what we're saying right now. You know what it is, what we're saying right now. We're talking to people who may not have yet experienced this, or maybe just getting started. You say, yo, let me get on this call and see what it is. Maybe you picked up the gospel of hip hop. You want to get a deeper explanation of it. This is what it is. Let me tell you, we are not preaching from no book. We're preaching life. Okay? Life. I see the blessing on Sun 1. I see when you get jammed up like this, and you say, yo, I'm jammed up. And then 2 hours later, you call back, God is God. And it's, yo, I see the blessing. You see my blessing.
Yes, indeed.
You be with me everywhere. Where can we go? Where do we can't go nowhere. We can't do nothing. The people love us so much. It's like the other people got to get security for hate.
Right.
We got to get security for love.
Right. Too much love.
Too much love. Dudes all on top of you. When the dudes want to kiss you and hug you, dudes with beard. I mean, you know I'm not lying. You know dudes is running up, want to hug you and kiss you and want to just be on top of you.
Straight up and down.
Straight up and down, yo.
Too. Grown men.
Grown ass men. But the point, and you know what they always say at the beginning? Yo, I ain't no punk. I ain't no punk. But right now, I got the... and it's the same all over the world. It's the light of God. It's the light of your brother. It's a family member meeting another family member. And you get that when it's a unity of soul. You get that in the unity of soul. So it's like, whereas others have to spend, like I said, they spend money on security for death threats and hatred. Mm-hmm. We got to spend money on security for hugs and kisses and love. Otherwise, we're not going to get out the building or get to where we got to go. And this is every day. This is every day. Okay. And so it's like what we're preaching here is real life. We're living this. You know, we're living this. And again, shout out to Virginia, because I will be living that this weekend. And that's what I'm imparting to you as well. And I am leaving right now. I'm leaving your screen. Okay?
No doubt.
That the Temple of Hip Hop, I'm so proud to be part of this, because the Temple of Hip Hop, there's no other teaching like this anywhere. And it shouldn't be. We're hip hop. We do what we do. We're not in competition with anybody else. But you ain't gonna find no truth nowhere else in the world like this, straight up in your face, straight up with real facts, real knowledge, coming with real spirituality. You're not gonna find this nowhere. And that's what makes me proud to be hip hop and proud to be part of the Temple of Hip Hop. That we're gonna get our people straight. We're gonna get our people straight. It ain't about 1 million people. It's about 60. It's about 40. It's about a serious 30 that we jumped out. Remember the movie 300? Mm-hmm. I mean, that's a poor example. These dudes, they got shot down at the end. But the idea of 300 going up against 3 million and putting a dent in that is what the moral of the story was. And so let us think of ourselves as that 300 against 3 million. Oh, and we going up. We are the hip-hopians, and we coming up, and we're saying, no, we have solid knowledge that you cannot refute. We have solid information that you cannot refute. So why are you playing us? Why are you still trying to exploit our culture? Why are you still trying to take from us and not give? Why are you not acknowledging us? Why is this the case? Somebody got to speak up, and that's what we're doing. So again, thank you for being here today. Son One, I'm walking off the screen. I got to run. I got another engagement. Peace and love.
Well, peace to the God.